Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is a story about what if Godlike rinnegan Naruto in fairy tale. Before I start, please support for more amazing content, and do consider subscribing to my channel and share this video with your friends. This is written by OverzealousDeku and link in description and support writer. Let's start the video. It was a normal day in Magnolia. People were in the stores, people were walking, and people were avoiding being anywhere near the fairy tale guild while the sounds of destruction came out of it. I can't believe it's barely my second day here and there's another fight. Don't worry about it, Lucy. It's just how the guild is. It's actually quite fun, once you get used to it. Plus it also helps hone your instincts. As she said this, a bottle was sent to her head like the day before, except she caught it and threw it back, hitting some random guild member in the face. Not once did the smile leave her face as she did this. Lucy's face just showed how utterly terrified she was of what Mary Jane just did. Gray, you bastard! Give me back my muffler. Not until you give me back my underwear. Well, if you stopped stripping then maybe it wouldn't be the first thing that gets torn apart in a fight. It's not torn apart though. You pulled them off. Sigh. Looks like Gray and Natsu are fighting again. This is a daily occurrence for them. Sometimes it even happens twice a day. Isn't it getting a bit out of hand? They're gonna start using magic, any moment now. Turning around, Happy saw that Lucy was right as he could see magical seals appearing all over the guild. However, before the fight could escalate any further, there was a thump against the door. It was loud enough that everyone in the guild turned their head toward it. Again, there was another thump, but this time it was much louder, and it was followed by the door swinging forward and crashing onto the ground. As the guild looked towards the door, they saw a blonde child about 10 years or so old just looking at the door he knocked over. As the child looked up, they could see that he had strange markings on his cheeks and that his eyes were purple with a strange ripple pattern in it. Sorry about the door. I didn't think it was gonna break. With that, the child started to laugh uncomfortably and scratched the back of his head. Well son, what can we do for you? Makarov was the first person to speak as he could see that some of the people in the guild could feel the power the young child had in his body. He could not believe that someone that young had as much magical power as he did. However, he knew that children born from abnormal amounts of magical power often suffered from pain because their bodies couldn't handle the magic. Yet the child seemed to be in perfect health. Well, I heard about the fairy tale guild from walking all over the place, and I decided to join. You do know you're a little young to join a guild, right? This came from Mikao. His son Romeo had wanted to join as soon as possible, but Makarov wouldn't let him unless it was special circumstances. However, he was welcome into the guild anytime he wanted. Hey! I'm 13, you bastard. Not my fault I'm short for my age. This was accompanied by a fist waving threateningly at Mikao. Well, if you want to join the guild that's fine with me. But why would you want to join? Well, I don't really have anywhere else to go. I'm an orphan. The village I was raised in was abandoned due to some idiot wizard who poisoned the forest around my home when he was on a mission. I can use magic, but I really don't know exactly what it is. This is supposed to be one of the best guilds in the country and has a reputation for massive destruction, which is actually a specialty of mine. So I thought, why not? The grin on his face was so infectious that everyone in the guild was also grinning at his response. Well, I must say, that is quite the response. Welcome to fairy tale, my boy. Now, what's your name? Oh, I forgot to introduce myself, didn't I? Well, I'm Naruto Uzumaki, and I'm gonna be one of the 10 wizard saints when I grow up, Databayo. The grin on Naruto's face was incredibly large, until he realized what he said at the end. I can't believe I said it again. Why do you betray me, brain? The laughs he got from the guild just made Naruto grin once more. So, Naruto, what did you say about your magic? You don't know exactly what it is. This came from Makarov. He had child with incredibly large magical reserves who didn't know what his magic was. That was a recipe for disaster. It's not that I don't know what it is, it's just that it's difficult to understand. I should show you. With that, Naruto jumped from his stool at the bar and walked outside the guild and was followed by everyone else in the guild. I'm gonna need someone to fight me. Don't worry about me getting hurt. I'm really tough. Let's go, Naruto. I wanna see what you can do. This came from no one other than Natsu. He just wanted to fight someone. Very well. Let this fight between Naruto and Natsu begin. With that, Makarov jumped out of the way as Natsu ran towards Naruto and began to attack with flame-covered fists. Stop dodging my attacks and fight back. 5 minutes into the fight, and Naruto hadn't even thrown a single punch. He just kept dodging or blocking Natsu's punches. As this continued, Makarov noticed that Naruto's eyes seemed to have very tiny magic circles in them. He only noticed because Naruto turned his head and he saw the light inside the eyes. He also noticed when the magic circles disappeared and Naruto jumped away from Natsu. You wanted me to fight back, right? Well, let's go. With that, Naruto slammed his hands together and pulled them apart to have them light up with fire, and he sprinted forward to slam a flame-covered fist into Natsu's stomach. Natsu hadn't expected the fire magic, and he hadn't expected for Naruto's punch to be quite so strong. He really didn't expect for the fire to begin burning him. Jumping away from Naruto's second attack, he looked at his stomach and noticed a small burn. It wasn't big, but what amazed him was that he was burned by fire magic. Looking up, he caught Naruto taking a deep breath. He would have to be blind to not notice the stance, or the magic circle forming in front of him. Fire Dragon's Roar! With that, Natsu brought his arms up to defend himself against the fire. However, it wasn't as strong as he suspected. It just left superficial burn marks on him. Looking at Naruto, he noticed that Naruto was struggling to stay standing after that attack. Whoa, that took a lot out of me. I really didn't think that Dragon Slayer magic used up so much magic power. With that, he sat down as he tried to catch his breath. That's what I meant about not actually knowing what my magic is. After all, what kind of magic allows you to learn what your opponent's magic is as you fight? With that, he fainted. As the guild rushed to make sure that Naruto was okay, Makarov stayed put. He was contemplating the possible consequences of such a magic. There had to be more to Naruto's magic than just being able to learn the opponent's magic. There had to be a limit to it. With that, he walked back into the guild with the rest of the guild. Naruto, what do you know about your own magic? Makarov asked Naruto to walk with him to his office as soon as Naruto woke up. Well, I know that it allows me to learn new forms of magic by seeing them performed. The more often I see it, the easier it is for me to learn the magic. That's why I waited so long when I fought Natsu. I could have fought back in the first minute, but it would have been completely ineffective. I have it in my head, but Dragon Slayer magic is incredibly complex. I could try to figure out how to do the rest of the Dragon Slayer magic by myself, but it would take me years just to get to the level Natsu's at. I must say that's an impressive magic you have. How did you get it? If what Naruto said was true, then it meant that he could learn any type of magic as long as he saw it enough times. Apparently, his eyes broke down the magic that it was seeing and it then allowed him to use it. The longer he saw it, the easier it became to break down the magic. It was entirely possible that the child in front of him knew many different kinds of magic already, but that they were just in the beginning stages. Well, to tell you the truth, I'm not sure. I just remember always having it. I know that my eyes have something to do with it, but I'm not entirely sure how. I keep having dreams that show me with blue eyes. I also see a red-haired man with the same eyes I have. It's all confusing. Well, I guess it doesn't matter how you got your magic. Just make sure to follow your heart, and do what you believe is right. That's the fairy tale way. The grin on Makarov's face made Naruto grin himself. Naruto knew he made a good choice in joining Fairy Tail. Let's go, Naruto. Dragon Slayer vs. Dragon Slayer. As soon as Naruto got out of Makarov's office, Natsu jumped at him wanting to fight. Natsu, I'm not really a Dragon Slayer. I was just able to learn the magic he used. Naruto wasn't trying to show it, but the Dragon Slayer magic had drained him of half his magic. He needed to learn more of the magic if he didn't want to lose so much when he used it again. How about we just spar? I don't know enough of your magic to actually fight you well enough to make it enjoyable. That's fine. You said that you were destructive, right? I want to see how much. With that, he ran outside the guild to wait for Naruto. Sighing, Naruto ran after him. Once again, the rest of the guild followed to see what he could actually do. Once outside, everyone had formed a large circle around Naruto and Natsu. Kana was outside the circle taking bets. The odds were in Natsu's favor. I can't believe that Naruto is going to actually fight. The last time was just for demonstration. Lucy was worried for the young Naruto. He was the youngest person in the guild and she didn't want him to get hurt. Natsu knows not to go overboard since Naruto's so young, but he won't hold back either. Naruto doesn't seem to be the kind of person to like that. I'm going to hit you with everything I have, Naruto. Now let's see what you can do. With that, Natsu jumped and tried to punch Naruto into the ground. Natsu expected Naruto to jump away or block, so when he blocked he grinned, but that grin disappeared when he saw what happened to the ground. Naruto had used Crash Magic. The magic used by Guildarts. He used it to soften the ground so that he wouldn't be too banged up from the punch to his arm. As soon as Naruto used Crash, everyone's eyes widened. They couldn't believe that Naruto knew the magic. However, it did explain why he said he was destructive. When Naruto blocked with his right arm and softened the ground with Crash, he used his left arm to encase it in rock in order to punch Natsu in the face. The punch to Natsu's face was enough to send him flying for a few feet as he recovered from his shock. Once he did, his grin was so large that it looked kinda creepy. He knew that this fight would be quite fun. As the fight resumed, the guild members noticed that Naruto used a variety of magic. He used speed magic in order to outmaneuver Natsu. He used elemental magic in order to attack. He used defensive spells in order to be able to take hits. However, everything that Naruto used showed everyone one thing. While he knew a variety of magic, he didn't know all of them too well. Some, like his elemental magic, he knew very well. However, others such as his speed magic, weren't too good. It didn't make him as fast as it should have. The good thing about Naruto knowing so many kinds of magic was that it allowed him to be able to cover up the weaknesses he had in them. Unfortunately, even though he was doing well, he didn't quite have the power or skill needed to defeat Natsu. Even when he used Crash, it wasn't anywhere as strong as Guildarts. It could damage things here and there, but it wasn't the city-wide devastation that people thought it should be. As the fight wound down, the guild could see that Naruto was on the last of his legs. However, Natsu was still raring to go. Seeing that he didn't have much time before he exhausted what remained of his magic power, Naruto stopped using the earth magic he was using to defend himself against Natsu's fire dragon roar. Jumping into the air, he threw his right hand forward with the fingers spread out, and yelled Shinra Tensei. No one knew exactly what it did, but they were surprised when Natsu was pushed into the ground hard enough to cause an indentation, and it continued for a second more before it stopped and Naruto crashed into the ground. Pulling himself out of the ground and grabbing his head, he looked to see that Naruto had crashed into the ground and had fainted from exhaustion. I win! Ha ha ha! I am invincible! With that, Natsu began breathing fire into the air, before he was smacked down into his hole by a giant fist. Mira, can you take Naruto and make sure that he's okay? When he wakes up we'll figure out his lodgings. Makarov asked while he kept Natsu under his fist. No problem, master. With that she picked up the sleeping Naruto and took him back into the guild. As the people were collecting their winnings, Kana had a look of sadness on her face. She was having fun up until Naruto used Crash. It reminded her about her father, and it depressed her to remember that she was still not an S-class mage. Naruto's first week in Fairy Tail was fairly simple. He found out that because he was an orphan and without any money he would be allowed to stay in the guild until he could afford his own place. However, because he was young, he wasn't allowed to take some of the more difficult assignments. He had to get permission from either Mirjane or Makarov in order to actually take an assignment. At the moment, Naruto was doing a simple delivery mission. He was by himself since the mission was hardly dangerous. All he had to do was deliver a jewel to Ashinaba. It was fairly simple and he didn't understand why there was a mission for it, but he wasn't gonna complain. It also helped that the payment was quite high for such a simple mission. He arrived at the museum easily enough, and he was able to give the jewel to the curator, who then explained to him that there was a mission placed simply because it had historical importance. It wasn't all that expensive or rare, but they took precaution anyway. Naruto had chosen to stay in the town in order to learn the layout in case he was called to the city again. However, his adventuring was cut short when he saw the giant wind wall that had surrounded the train station. Running towards it, he could feel his eyes taking in the magic and breaking it down. Unlike Dragon Slayer magic, which was incredibly complex, elemental magic came very easily. That's why within seconds he was able to figure out how the wind wall was being kept up and figure out how to take it down. Using his wind magic to make him fly, he saw something flying off into the distance, and he quickly figured out that that same person made the wind wall. Looking at the wind wall, he began the process of dispelling it. First, he began to blunt the wind in order to keep people from being torn apart in trying to escape. Afterward, he began to slow the wind down. Lastly, he stopped the tornado from starting up again. Within a minute, the wind wall broke down and the people outside were free to go in. Looking in the direction that he saw the person flying, Naruto made up his mind to follow. He didn't know what was going on, but he knew that whoever put up the wind wall was doing it to be malicious. Flying along the way, he saw a magic four-wheel going dangerously fast, and it kept swerving on the road, which almost made it fall off the road. Flying down next to the four-wheel, he saw a red-headed woman wearing a breastplate trying to stay awake from using the magic four-wheel. Hey! Slow down. You're not in the right state to be driving this. You look exhausted. When the woman turned, he was surprised to see that her armor had the fairy tale mark on it. Seeing that she was about to speak, he just showed her his right hand. That's where his orange fairy tale mark was. Seeing it, she smiled and slowed down enough so that he could get on it. Introductions can come later, don't you think? So what's going? You must be in a hurry if you're willing to burn up so much of your magic so quickly. We're trying to stop a dark wizard from using a death magic called Lullaby. We lost a lot of time because of a wind wall that he put up. Oh, then it's a good thing I dispelled his wind wall. Anyway, I think you need to stop feeding so much of your magic, even if we get there quickly, but you're too exhausted to do anything, then it would have been a waste. Let me supply the magic. I have a ton of it. I'm too young to drive, so you're going to have to do that, but being a battery I can do. Urza knew that it would be difficult if she caught up to Erigar, but was too exhausted to fight, so with regret she gave him the SE plug. Instantly, the four-wheeler sped up. Looking at Naruto, Urza was surprised to see him with a giant grin on his face as the four-wheeler kept speeding up. Shaking her head, she focused on driving the four-wheeler without it swerving. Inside, Gray and Lucy noticed how much smoother the ride became and were wondering what happened. Opening the small window to look outside, they were surprised to see that Naruto was sitting next to Urza and was introducing himself. Naruto? When did you get here? Better yet, how did you get here? Turning his head, Naruto saw Lucy and Gray. Hey, you two. I got here about a minute ago and I flew here using wind magic. Urza already informed me of what's going on. I'm still amazed that something like this happened. You'd think that the Magic Council would have a better handle on such types of magic. Yeah, but right now's not the best time to be talking about that. Fine, we finish this and then I'll start complaining. Lucy could only laugh at his response. With Naruto powering the four-wheeler, they arrived in time to see Natsu beat Erigor. Stopping right next to Natsu, Naruto stayed on the four-wheeler as everyone else got off. That's how he was able to see someone get out of the back and pick up the lullaby flute and try and take off with the four-wheeler. Keyword being try. As soon as Naruto saw the guy get the lullaby, he used earth magic to grab the guy before he could do anything. He then took Lullaby and put it in a rock cage. He didn't want to touch the thing. He could feel the evil coming from the flute, and he didn't want to touch it. Hey, what are we gonna do with this thing? I'm pretty sure that just having this in our possession is illegal. Naruto knew that if he was arrested for something, because of his young age he wouldn't be punished too severely, but he didn't want to take a chance. It's not illegal as long as you turn it in to the proper people. Our best choice would be to give it to the master. He'll make sure that it's properly disposed of, Urza stated as she took the cage. Seeing that everyone was in agreement, they got back on the four-wheeler and went to Clover Town. They didn't need to go all that far. Makarov had met up with them in the East Forest near the guild meeting building. As they handed over the cage, they didn't notice the flute's eyes begin to glow. They especially didn't expect to see it come alive and begin to grow to gargantuan proportions. I've had it with all of you. All you had to do was play me, but no. Now I'll just eat all of your souls. Oh, this isn't good, said Bob, the guild master for Blue Pegasus. It's a demon from the Book of Zerif. It's living magic, stated Goldmine, the guild master for Quattro Cerberus. Wait, the Black Wizard Zerif? As in the most evil wizard in all of history? This was yelled by Lucy, looking at Lullaby with even more fear. Natsu, Gray, get everyone to safety, and don't talk back, yelled Urza as she knew they would talk back to her, ordering them. Again with them acting like happy, stated Lucy while shaking her head. Natsu, Gray, let's go. With that, all three of them sprung into action, fighting Lullaby. Hey! Wait for me! Yelled Naruto as he activated the magic he learned from Happy Era. Giant white wings sprung from his back as he sped off flying. Gathering wind magic into his hands, he sharpened all of the wind to a point before sending it off at the throat of Lullaby. Naruto didn't know it, but his eyes had begun to store all of the magic that was currently being used by everyone around him. This included Lullaby's death music. As he flew around throwing wind blades at Lullaby, he saw that it was going to try and attack the guild masters, so he flew in front of them and formed a gigantic earth wall to take the explosion it threw at them. That's it. You pests have bothered me enough. I'm going to take your souls. With that, Lullaby formed a gigantic magic circle above itself and initiated its magic. However, thanks to all of the damage it had taken so far, it was unable to properly cast its death magic. This left it completely open for Team Natsu to finish off Lullaby. Unfortunately, as Lullaby was destroyed, it also destroyed the guild meeting place, which meant that Fairy Tail had to run away before they were caught by the angry mob that was following them. Man, those articles on you guys don't do you justice. You guys destroy things by accident, but you do it so amazingly. I'm glad I joined Fairy Tail. Now I'll just fly on ahead. I don't want to get caught by that mob behind us. See ya. With that, Naruto sped off, laughing at the expressions his guild members had. Unfortunately, his arrow wore off at that very moment, dropping him like a rock. Looking back, he could see that his guildmates had very scary faces on them, so he began to run while asking for forgiveness for attempting to ditch them. Naruto was currently on another simple delivery mission. He wasn't allowed to take more difficult mission until the master gave him a rank. He would get one that depended on how well he did his missions. Of course, since these were delivery missions, he couldn't actually demonstrate his fighting ability. Then again, Naruto was a magnet for trouble, and it was just his luck that information about the item he was delivering was leaked into the underworld and people of all types were after him. It was also even worse when the item he was delivering was mistaken for an item of great power. The people after him believed he was carrying an item owned by Zerif, but in reality it was a simple staff. It was ordered by an elderly mage as a gift for his granddaughter. When Naruto learned the details of the mission, he vowed to do everything in his power to get the staff to the grandfather in order to make the granddaughter happy. At the moment he was flying leisurely next to the train rails. He could have bought a ticket, but he wanted to try out air more. He wouldn't let anyone know, but he really liked the fact that he could grow wings. It felt amazing to be able to fly using his wings, and he could do a lot more with them than he could with just using wind magic to propel him. He took to experimenting with his magics after they arrived back at the guild after the Lullaby incident. He found out that he could actually combine arrow with other magics. He could use fire to light them up, or wind to sharpen them and attack with them. He could probably do a lot more with it, but at the moment, he only trusted using fire and wind since that was what he was best with at the moment. Of course, he only experimented after he ran from the others who were trying to catch him to get their revenge. He was very happy that he had so much stamina that he was able to outlast them and run ahead. If they had actually been trying, then he would have been caught in no time, but they weren't, so he was okay. At the moment, he was just flying at a moderate pace in order to catch the sights that he was seeing. He had traveled a lot, but he never got bored of just looking at nature. He was interrupted from his musings when he noticed a spear of ice just narrowly missing him. Looking behind him, he could see a group of about 10 mages riding magic four-wheelers, and some of them were hanging from the side in order to better attack him. Seeing that they weren't terribly smart, he made a piece of rock jut from the ground under their tires in order to tip over the magic four-wheelers. As expected, the mages didn't react quickly enough to the attack, and some of them got stuck underneath the four-wheelers. The more competent ones were able to avoid from being caught under the four-wheelers, and turned towards Naruto in order to attack. However, they were soon trapped in a giant sinkhole Naruto made. Seeing that no one else was going to attack him, he landed. They were all from the same organization if their clothing was anything to go by. Still, he couldn't just leave them there. They would escape and try to attack him again. So deciding on his course of action, he knocked them all unconscious, took all of their items, and stripped them of any sort of magical items they had. This included magical weapons, lacrima, and their magical four-wheelers. Wrapping them all in stone handcuffs and foot cuffs, he placed them all in the four-wheelers. However, now he had a problem. He couldn't drive. He couldn't trust any of the mages inside to drive, and he was sure that he couldn't intimidate any of them. So he was in a conundrum. Sighing, he looked up at the sky, silently praying for an answer. The answer came to him in a loud whistle which made him look in the direction of the train tracks. He could see the train from pretty far away and it gave him an idea. Hibiki Lates was glad that his team's mission was so simple. It wasn't anything noteworthy, but they finished it quickly and because of that they were able to get on the last train going to their town. However, as he was looking outside he caught the sight of giant stone letters along the side. As they sped by, he noticed that they spelled out help. Need 2 mages to drive 4 wheels. Looking ahead he could see an arrow pointing to the location where the 4-wheelers were. Looking at his team he noticed that they too had noticed the writing and had agreed with him. Naruto was bored. He had been waiting for over an hour waiting for help to arrive. He knew that someone had to have at least read the writing so he knew that someone was gonna send help. But he hated that it was gonna take so long. It also didn't help that the people inside the 4-wheelers kept trying to escape. He had to knock them out again after they woke up. It seemed that they weren't learning their lesson at all. Sighing, Naruto was surprised to see a dust cloud out in the distance. As he looked he could see 4 people on another magic 4-wheeler but they were waving at him. Standing up, he started waving back. When they arrived, Naruto jumped off the roof of the 4-wheeler and greeted them. Thanks so much for coming. I was worried I was gonna have to wait even more. I'm Naruto. Fairy Tale Wizard. We are the Trimans from Blue Pegasus. I am Ichiya Vandalay Kotobuki, men. This was stated by short ginger-haired man wearing a white suit. I'm Eve Term. This came from a blonde-haired young man wearing a black suit. I'm Hibiki Lates. This came from a brown-haired man wearing a dark blue suit. I'm Rin Akatsuki. This came from a dark-skinned man wearing a black suit. Never heard of you. But I'm grateful you came. I'm not allowed to drive these 4-wheelers cause I'm too young. How did you get these things anyway, men? Asked Ichiya. After all, it wasn't every day that you saw a child with magic 4-wheelers. Well, I was attacked and the people who attacked me were using these. I tied them up and they're inside, but I couldn't actually go anywhere with so many people. As Naruto told them this he also showed them the people inside. Good thing was that they were still unconscious and couldn't actually say anything. Do you have anything to show what group they're from? This came from Hibiki. He wanted to know what sort of group would attack a child. Yeah. Just let me get it. With that, Naruto used his requip magic to take out some of the clothing he took. Oh, you can use requip? That's handy. This came from Eve. He was first amazed that a child his age was able to defeat the people who attacked him, and again right now when he was able to use requip. Requip itself wasn't difficult to learn, but to actually master it was different. It all depended on how quickly someone could put something in and take something out of their pocket dimension. Naruto could actually do it pretty quickly. They all shared this symbol. I'm not sure what it is though. As Naruto handed the tunic to Hibiki, Hibiki activated his archive magic. This symbol seems to be from the Dark Guild Grimoire Heart. You were lucky they were only grunts. If it had been someone from a higher rank, I don't think we'd be talking right now. Oh, looks like all members of Grimoire Heart have a bounty on them. Because these guys are runts they have a bounty of 20,000 jewels. While Hibiki was explaining this, Naruto was instead looking at the archive. He had never seen this type of magic so it immediately intrigued him. Looking at the screens Naruto could feel new knowledge flow into his head quite quickly, but he also knew that he wouldn't be able to use it correctly unless he had some sort of idea on what it was. What sort of magic do you use, Hibiki? I've never seen this type of magic before. Turning from his screen, Hibiki could only smile as Naruto looked at his archive and wonder. Well, the concept of this just came about recently so it's still a pretty rare magic. However, it allows someone to store all information they find into magical databases. It's pretty handy because it can store information you don't even know you had. Hibiki didn't mean to sound like he was bragging, but his archive had gotten him out of a bunch of situations before. He couldn't help but feel a bit proud. That's so cool. I wonder? Putting his hands out, he focused on the new magic that went into his mind. As a screen came up, he could hear the gasps from Team Trimans, but what was bothering him was that nothing was coming up. Focusing, he tried to make the archive show him his elemental magic, but he got the feeling that it would be a while before he could do anything. Hibiki. You got any idea what's going on? Looking up, Naruto saw that Hibiki was quite shocked by what he just did, but decided to answer his question anyway. That's the beginning process. When you first use archive, it begins to organize all the information you know. Depending on what you know, it could be a few days before you can actually use it, but you'll feel it when it finishes. How exactly did you do that? My eyes allow me to learn any type of magic I see, but if I don't have an idea on what it does then I can't use it well. Because you explained it to me, I was able to actually understand what the magic does, so I was able to actually use it. Turning to look at them, he could see that they were all surprised. That's an amazing magic, men. How did you get this magic, men? Ichiya wasn't considered the ace of his guild for nothing. A magic like this would be invaluable for any guild. However, he really didn't believe that it allowed Naruto to learn any magic. It had limits considering what he was told, but maybe that was just because Naruto was young. I'm not sure how I got this magic. I've always had it. But enough about me, shall we get going? The rest of the mission went along quite smoothly. The only hiccup they had was when they turned in the Grimoire Heart agents. The local law enforcement wouldn't be able to keep all of the mages, and because of that Naruto was forced to wait for a few days while the Rune Knights arrived to take them into custody. When Naruto asked about the bounty, it was explained to him that because he was from a guild that it would be sent to Fairy Tail to wait for him. Naruto thanked him, but told them to send half of it to Blue Pegasus. This surprised the Rune Knight, but he took note of it and told Naruto he would take care of it. With that, Naruto used his air magic combined with his wind and fire magic to increase his speed to such ridiculous levels that he gained a Mach cone around himself. Those who saw him thought it was a shooting star. He traveled so quickly that he passed by entire towns in minutes. If he hadn't been in a hurry, he would have wondered why he wasn't getting tunnel vision. However, within half an hour he could feel the strain of keeping up the speed, so he began to slow down. Good thing he was within walking distance of the town he had to deliver the staff to. After walking a bit, he found the address of the person who ordered the staff. Knocking on the door, he expected an elderly man to open the door. However, he was surprised when a little pink-haired girl opened the door. Crouching down to her eye level, he smiled at her. Hello? I'm here to see someone about a delivery. Do you know anything about that? The girl only kept looking at him. Sakura? Where are you? Looking up, Naruto saw an elderly man walking down some stairs inside the house. Ah, there you are. Sakura, what have I told you about opening the door to strangers? Picking up the little girl, he gave Naruto his full attention. So, what can I do for you, young man? I'm Naruto Uzumaki from the Fairy Tail Guild in order to deliver a staff to Sarutobi Hiruzen. Pulling the staff out of his pocket dimension, he handed it to the elderly man. Thank you very much. I hope you didn't have any trouble getting here? Nothing that I couldn't handle. I'm just glad that I was able to deliver the gift you want to give to your granddaughter on time. Thank you, Naruto. Here's your payment. Handing Naruto an envelope, he also handed him a second one. This is a bonus. For getting here sooner than I thought you would. Opening up the second envelope, Naruto was surprised to not see money, but tickets. Looking up, Naruto was confused. Those tickets are for the Akane Resort. I'm too old to go and my granddaughter here is too young. I could give it to her parents, but they are going to be away for quite a while. Better to give it to someone who can use them than just to let them gather dust. The smile on the old man's face was so sincere that it made Naruto smile too. Thank you so much. I'll make sure to put them to good use. Bowing to him, Naruto turned around and waved goodbye to them. Even little Sakura was waving bye to him. Activating his air magic, he flew away with a big smile on his face. He couldn't have been happier with the way everything had turned out. In fact, his smile got even larger when he felt his archive ding. It signaled that it finally finished arranging everything he knew into the right categories. While he was tempted to use it immediately, he didn't know how it could affect him. So he settled to wait until he was back in the guild. Wow, it's really late. Naruto had arrived much later than he had planned. It was because his air magic ended sooner than he had expected. Because of that, he had to use his wind magic to fly the rest of the way. However, it wasn't as fun or as fast. As Naruto was walking back towards the guild, he saw a man jump up into the air and punch the air in front of him. He was surprised when a pillar erupted from his arm and punched into the roof of the Fairy Tail Guild. Hey! What the hell do you think you're doing? Startled, the man turned around and saw Naruto. Simple, I'm showing Fairy Tail who's boss. With that, he threw some more metal poles into the guild before he ran off. Damn it! I have to make sure no one is inside. Running inside the building, he looked around and saw that no one was inside. Sighing in relief, he looked at all the destruction. It was gonna suck to fix all the damage. Sitting down on one of the still usable chairs, he remembered he still had to look at his archive. Opening up his archive, he was amazed to see how it was all arranged. It showed open windows for his magic, information he knew, people, and strangely enough messages. There were other windows, but those were blank. Choosing to look at magic, he touched it with his finger and all the other screens disappeared. The magic window got bigger, and it showed a list of all the magics he knew. It was surprising to see how it was all arranged. The magics were all arranged into either caster, holder, lost, uncategorized, combination, or rinnegan. Choosing to look into caster, he saw that some of them were also put into other categories. He had elemental magic, supplementary magic, and many others. Looking into holder, he only saw magic keys and equip. Not knowing anything about magic keys, he clicked it, and saw that he didn't really know much on it, just that it was used to open portals for magical summons. Looking into Lost, he saw Dragon Slayer and was surprised to see that it had 2 sections underneath some descriptions of what Dragon Slayer magic was. One was Fire Dragon Slayer, and the other was Iron Dragon Slayer. Clicking on Fire Dragon Slayer, he was surprised to see a picture of Natsu using his magic. Looking through the information, he saw that it showed that the same information that he had read through, but that fire was infused into the magic. Looking at Iron Dragon Slayer, he was shocked to see the guy that had attacked their guild. Once again, it only showed the information that he knew, but that iron was instead infused into the magic. Going into uncategorized, he saw that he had nothing. He wasn't sure why that was there if it was empty, but he wasn't gonna worry about it. Looking at combination, he was surprised to see that his combination of era and elemental magic was included as well. Too bad that was all he had at the moment. Clicking on rinnegan, he was once again surprised. There on the screen was a picture of his eyes. Apparently they had a name. Looking through it, he was amazed by all the things his eyes could do. Upon reaching the last ability, he stopped. He reread it again, but he had read it right the first time. The rinnegan had the ability to bring the recently dead back to life. Sitting there, Naruto decided to get some sleep. He had way too many things happen to him today. Naruto sighed for what seemed like the millionth time that day. After he had woken up, he prepared the first floor basement for business. He knew that they would need it. He was also not looking forward to being questioned on what happened. After he explained to Makarov what happened and showing him the picture of the Dragon Slayer that attacked the guild, Makarov just told him to not try and seek revenge. At first Naruto was mad, but after thinking about it he understood. The council forbade fights between guilds. The vandalism that occurred, while bad, would mostly mean a fine to Phantom Lord and compensation to Fairy Tail for the damages. However, Naruto had a bad feeling in his gut that told him that this wasn't over. As more and more people came in, Naruto was slowly dreading the arrival of Natsu and his team. He really didn't want to be there to explain what happened. Looking at the mission board, one of them caught his eye. It was a job to unseal a chest. He didn't know anything about sealing or rune magic, but he knew that some seals required a certain magic to unlock, so it was possible that he could very easily open it. If not, then he could return and ask Levi to help him. Plus the reward wasn't that bad and the location was close enough that he could return to the guild quite quickly if he needed to. Gramps, I'm gonna head out on this mission. I can't stand just sitting still at the moment. Looking at the flyer, Makarov hummed in thought. He knew that Naruto was still an unranked wizard, and looking at the flyer he couldn't see anything about it that made it seem difficult or dangerous. Then again, he was slightly drunk, so he couldn't think too rationally. Fine, have Mira sign it out. Nodding his head, Naruto grabbed the flyer and had Mira sign the mission out to him. Waving bye to everyone, he walked out of the guild. Usually, he would need to pack for the mission, but he hadn't unpacked from the night before and it was close enough that he didn't think he would need to stay more than a day. Activating his era magic, he flew towards Harjin Town. As Naruto arrived in Harjin Town, he could see that the port had been rebuilt after someone had destroyed it. He never found out who did it, but it was interesting to see the destruction. Looking up the address, he found it resided pretty close to the port itself. With that, he started walking towards the building. It didn't take long to find the building, as apparently it was the only magic store in the city. Walking in, he looked at all the merchandise. None of it was actually anything special, but it was a decent selection for the only magic shop in town. Looking in the glass case, he saw that the store owner actually had some gate keys. They were all silver keys, but it was better than nothing. Looking them over, he always wanted to see how they worked. If he could get a good enough price, then he might even buy one. Ah, hello there. I didn't hear the door ring. How can I help you? Looking up, Naruto was greeted by the sight of an older man who was smiling at him, and had his hands together showing that he was willing to help at a moment's notice. I'm here about the job you posted. You needed a chest unsealed, correct? Naruto could see that the man was happy to see him from the smile that popped on the guy's face. Finally. I posted that job weeks ago. No one has come to open it, and I was about to give up hope that anyone would help. Come follow me to the back. My name is Joseph, by the way. I'm Naruto, Fairy Tail Wizard. Walking around the counter, Naruto followed the man to the back room where the man kept his inventory. Looking through everything, he saw that the stuff in here was actually of a much better quality than the stuff in the aisles of the store. Looking at the man, he couldn't help but be curious. Why the difference in quality? Almost as if his mind had been read, I can order special items from all over the world for my best customers. It's all legally done, so you don't have to worry. Nodding, Naruto knew that could be the truth. Magic stores had to do things like these in order to keep people coming back. It was the same with Urza and the smith that made her magic armors. There were plenty of places that made magic armor, but she got better equipment from them than any other store because she had been shopping there for years. He himself didn't have any special connections with any store, but it was never too late to start. Here we go. This chest came into my possession a month ago. It was sold to me by a traveling wizard. He seemed to be in a bad financial situation, so I took pity on him. I bought the chest even though I didn't really know what was inside. Unfortunately, neither did the wizard who I bought it from. He apparently found it inside some ruins after he had been asked to clear it of monsters by one of his contracts. He had tried to open it, but he was never able to. I tried as well since I have many more resources, but I was never able to. However, if you can open it, I'll give you something from my back room for free, plus the jewels from the mission. Taking the box, Naruto looked it all over trying to see if he could spot any sort of mechanism to open it. Concentrating on the box, he was able to see the magic that surrounded the box. It was extremely complex rune magic. The magic itself was probably cast by a master of rune magic. He could tell that it had all sorts of protections to keep it from being destroyed. Sighing, Naruto explained the situation. I don't know what I can do, but I'll try and unseal this. If I can't, then I know someone who specializes in rune magic that could. Do you have somewhere I can work on this so that I don't disrupt your business? Yes, I had a special room created on the second floor to test anything suspicious that came into my possession. You can use that if you need to. As he followed the man to the second floor, he couldn't help but marvel at all of the merchandise that he saw. Whoever he supplied, they were lucky. Some of the things he saw were quite rare. Here we go. Just come down to find me if you need something. Nodding, Naruto entered the room and saw that it was inscribed with runes as well. The room itself was large enough to hold quite a few people, but it only had a table and 2 chairs. Setting the chest on the table, he concentrated in order to see the rune magic again. He could see it swirling around the chest and giving it a glow. The runes themselves were visible as well, but they were incredibly tiny and they were so numerous that he couldn't tell how many layers of protection it had. Since he had no idea where to start, he decided to see if he could torch the chest. Like he knew would happen, a red barrier formed around the chest and protected it from the stream of fire. The table itself was fine as well, so he knew that it could take a beating. After fire, he chose to use water and again another barrier. This time blue. Trying wind, a green one popped up. With earth it was a brown one. With lightning it was a yellow one. Light and darkness magic didn't do squat either. Trying crash didn't even budge it. Brute strength didn't do anything. Stupid box, why won't you open? While glaring at it, Naruto had an idea. Activating archive, he was pleasantly surprised to see that some of it formed around to box in order to scan it. Even a keyboard appeared this time. Looking through the information that appeared, he concluded one thing. He couldn't tell anything about the box. Apparently, archive depended on him knowing something about the magic he was scanning in order for it to work. Sighing, he decided to look through his magic list to see if anything could help him. Unfortunately, he didn't know anything that could. While looking through the rinnegan section, he stumbled upon something he just skimmed over the night before. There was an ability called Absorb or Drain that allowed him to take the magic from something. Seeing that he didn't really have any other option, he decided to try it. Putting his hand on the chest, he activated Absorb. Instantly, he could tell that something was different. He could feel the foreign magic enter his system and be slowly integrated. However, what was different was that he felt new knowledge enter his mind. His body was slowly taking apart the rune magic and adding it to his repertoire of magic. Once he sucked the chest dry, he began to feel a headache forming. All of the information that was sucked into his mind was almost a lifetime's worth of rune magic study. Sitting down, he looked at the chest and saw that it opened. Reaching inside, he saw a strange item. It was a lacrima. Looking at it, he didn't see anything different about it from other lacrima. Lifting it out, he saw that it was perfectly round and purple. Nothing about it would be considered extraordinary except that the moment he touched it, he felt the massive amount of magic that was infused within it. Looking it over, he didn't know what sort of magic it contained. It was risky to activate a lacrima which he knew nothing about. It could be an explosive lacrima, or something even more dangerous. Or it could be completely harmless. However, from the amount of seals that were placed, he was willing to bet that it was extremely dangerous. He knew scanning it might help, or it might accidentally trigger the lacrima. He had to decide on what to do quickly, because it was entirely possible that the lacrima was on a timer and that it could activate at any moment. Sighing, he knew that he had to absorb the magic in the lacrima. He couldn't let the lacrima activate and cause a potentially disastrous situation. Focusing, he activated Absorb once more. Once again, he felt the rush of knowledge be forced into his brain. However, he wasn't prepared for the excruciating amount of information that would be forced into his brain. As the information was absorbed, he could begin to understand the numbers he saw. The magic relied heavily on mathematical formulas. As he understood more and more, he realized exactly what the magic was. It allowed for complete and total spatial manipulation. Once he finished absorbing the magic and his brain assimilated the information, he knew the name of the magic. It was called Arc of Space. Unfortunately, before he could think about it any further, his headache came back even worse than before, and he fainted. Wake up. Wake up. Are you okay? I completely forgot you were here. I'm so sorry I didn't come back to check on you. Opening his eyes, Naruto saw Joseph looking concerned. What's going on? Ah, my head. Using his hand, he probed his head until he felt the bruise. Apparently after he fainted, he smacked his head against something hard. He was lucky he wasn't bleeding. The last thing I remember is opening the chest. Looking at the chest, he saw that the chest was still open and that the lacrima he drained remained next to it, cracked into pieces. I'm sorry about the lacrima. Waving away his apology, Joseph helped Naruto up. Don't worry about that. I'm more worried about you. I should have been more careful and set up a protection barrier. The chest was probably trapped to prevent its opening. While Naruto knew that wasn't true, he couldn't tell Joseph what really happened. After all, losing a lacrima that contained a lost magic would probably make him lose it. It's alright. I should have been more careful. But at least I got the chest open. Smiling, Joseph nodded. You did alright. How did you do it? I just got lucky. You would have gotten the chest open eventually. Accepting the answer, Joseph led Naruto back downstairs to give him his pay and the item he promised. Here you go. 250,000 jewels, and here. This was supposed to go to a mage that asked me to get it for him, but he never came to get it. I just found out that he died recently in a fight against Oration Cease. It's a shame, but things like that happen from time to time. I don't know if you'll be able to actually put it to use, but you never know. What Joseph gave to Naruto was a magical sniper rifle. Naruto really didn't know much about magic guns, but he knew that Biska and Alzak did, so he would ask them about it. He pocketed the reward, and as he was leaving he remembered the gate keys. Hey Joseph, how much are the gate keys? Turning back, he was surprised to see him come back. Well, normally they're 20,000 jewels, but for you I'll cut it in half. Taking the money from the reward, he chose one that caught his eyes. It had a circular top with an inner white circle with a much smaller green circle in the middle. At the end of it where the teeth were supposed to be, there wasn't anything. It kinda reminded him of a chisel. Thanks Joseph. I'll see you again sometime. Waving goodbye to the man, he was surprised to see that the sun was already high up. Looking at one of the clocks on the road, he was surprised to see that it was actually earlier than he arrived. It took him a few moments to figure out that he had slept through the night at the shop. Activating Era, he flew back towards the guild. When Naruto arrived at the guild, he knew something was wrong. There was no sound coming from the inside of the guild. Walking inside and towards the basement, he saw that only Mira was there. Mira? Where's everyone else? Startled, Mira turned around in surprise. Seeing it was only Naruto, she relaxed. Naruto, where have you been? We were worried, sorry. I ran into a few complications, but everything went smoothly afterward. Seeing her face relax, but not entirely, he knew something happened. Mira, what happened? Closing her eyes, Mira began to tell Naruto what happened. How Levi, Jet, and Droy had been attacked in the night, and how everyone went after them. He was only an hour behind everyone, which meant they were probably only arriving at the guild at the moment. I'm going after them. Even if I can't do much, there's still something I can do. Running out of the guild, he activated his Era magic and combined it with fire and wind magic again. He flew towards Oaktown as quickly as he could. At his top speed, it would still take him some time to get there. Hopefully, nothing bad happened, but the feeling in his gut was telling him otherwise. Arriving in Oaktown, he saw smoke coming from the Phantom Lord building. Flying over to it, he could see people running out of the guild. He recognized them as Fairy Tail, so he flew down to help protect those that were retreating. Using his earth magic, he plummeted towards the ground and punched it with his fist so that a giant earth wave would stop those on the left from attacking any more people. Seeing that they were taken care of at the moment, he turned towards those on the right and once again using earth magic, he lifted the ground underneath them so that it threw them into the air, and they crashed back into the ground. Seeing that even more people were coming from inside the building, he went inside to stop Phantom Lord from chasing them. For a moment, everything froze. He saw Makarov injured. As he saw him, he recognized the effect as wind magic that sucked the magic power from someone. He knew that the more power someone had, the worse the effect. Seeing Makarov like that woke something in Naruto. To those looking at Naruto, they would say that he first looked like a child that didn't know what to do, but the very next moment his magic power exploded out of him. To everyone there, it felt like they were in the middle of a natural disaster. The ground began shaking, the wind started buffeting everyone, the fires that were lit suddenly turned into raging infernos. Lightning started arching from his body. All water sources suddenly began to float into the air. Everyone in Fairy Tail, get out. They are mine. Shock passed through everyone before Urza snapped out of it. Are you crazy? They defeated Master. You can't win. Urza instantly regretted saying that. All the effects from before began to get worse. I said leave. Now. Looking at Urza straight in the eye made Urza freeze up. It felt like she was looking at an apex predator, and she was the prey. Nodding, Urza ordered the rest of Fairy Tail to leave. As they threw disbelieving glances at him, he ignored them all as he settled his eyes on all of the people in Phantom Lord. We can live with you attacking our guild. However, when you begin to attack people in Fairy Tail, our friends, our family, that's when you cross the line. None of you will ever be forgiven. When you remember this moment, you will remember it as the biggest mistake of your life. None of you are going to leave this building intact. With that, Naruto blurred away. He reappeared next to a mage who attempted to run away. His fist already buried in the man's gut. Blurring away again, he began to systematically defeat all of the grunt wizards. None of could even keep track of him, so he didn't even need to use his magic, which made it all the better because he wanted to break their bones with his bare hands. After breaking the bones of all of the grunts, and leaving them in their sorry state on the ground, he began to concentrate. The magic spell that was used on Makarov sucked out all of the magic power into the surroundings. If he was able to gather it all together again, Makarov would be able to heal faster. Finding the magic that felt like Makarov's, he flew outside the guild and focused upon it. Once again, he was able to see the magic in the air, and he could see Makarov's magic. He found that it was being collected into a single spot. Flying towards it, he noticed a cloaked figure wrapped in bandages with many staves concentrating on gathering the magic. Flying closer to him, Naruto decided to confront him. "Who are you and what do you think you are doing?" The man, which he could tell now from the close distance, didn't even seem surprised. "I'm gathering Master Makarov's magic. With it, he should be able to recover much quicker." Surprised at hearing the man call Makarov master, he still held his suspicion. "How do you know, Gramps?" The question made the man chuckle. "I'm a member of Fairy Tail. I'm Mystigan." Opening his eyes, he chuckled again on how wide Naruto's eyes had gotten. "Oh, well, I'm Naruto. What are you doing here and why didn't you help in the fight?" "I arrived at Magnolia during the early morning and saw what had happened to 3 of our members. I knew how Makarov would react, so I decided to begin early." With that, a bunch of Phantom Lord flags began to fly all over the small clearing they were in. As Naruto looked around in shock, he could see how much of a difference there was between Mystigan and himself. He didn't believe he would be able to defeat all of the other branches of Phantom Lord by himself. Shaking his head in awe, and regarded Mystigan once more. "That's amazing. You are gonna clean this up, right? We don't want to be called litterers on top of everything else we already are. I'll leave you to gather Gramps' magic. I'll catch up with everyone else, but first there's something I have to finish." Flying up and above the Phantom Lord building, he began to gather a large amount of magic power. Focusing, he put his hand downward and shouted Shinra Tensei. Instantly, a large force crushed the building. As he looked over the destruction, he could see the Phantom Lord members inside the debris, and it looked like they all survived the falling building. It probably helped that Naruto attacked the building from an angle, so a lot of the debris was pushed away from them. Seeing that he was finished, he began to fly back towards the guild. He knew that it would take some time to get all of Makarov's magic, so he hoped that he could take the pain for a while. Fighting all of the Phantom Lord members, talking to Mystigan, and crushing the building had apparently taken a while because when he arrived at Magnolia everyone else had just gotten to the Fairy Tail building. Flying down, he began helping people who were injured. As he helped those injured, he overheard Mikao and Wakaba talking about going back to destroy the building. "We don't need to go back. The building's gone and the people in it are going to be in the hospital for a long time." Hearing this, everyone turned to look at him. Before he could explain anything, he heard someone run down the stairs. Everyone outside. It was Alzak, and he did not sound like he usually did. As people ran out, he saw Urza run out in nothing but a towel. While any other time he would have tried to burn the image into his mind, they had more important things to worry about. Once outside, he saw what made Alzak freak out. A giant castle was walking towards them. As it stopped, he could feel his gut telling him that something terrible was gonna happen. Once again he was right as a giant turret popped out of the castle. "Oh shit. Don't tell me Phantom Lord is gonna try and use that to destroy the guild? He'll destroy part of Magnolia too." Loki's thoughts became real when magic power began to gather at the tip of the cannon. "Everyone get back!" Urza yelled as she threw off her towel and requiked an armor of hers. That's her adamantine armor. She intends to take the blast on herself. Happy's voice was heard by all as they realized what Urza meant to do. "Urza! You can't! Even with that armor, you'll be hurt." Natsu's yell did nothing as he was being held back by Gray, but you could see that he wanted to stop Urza just as much as Natsu did. Her body can't take that amount of magic. But maybe Naruto's voice was a whisper, but it was enough to get Kana's attention as she looked at him. But before she could do anything, he disappeared in burst of speed magic and appeared in front of Urza's magic seal as the cannon fired. "Naruto! Get out of the way! You can't stop something like that!" However, Naruto ignored her as he prepared himself. Spreading his limbs out, he yelled absorb. What happened next shocked everyone. As soon as the compressed magic beam touched Naruto's body, it began to be absorbed into his body. Everyone looked with wide eyes as Naruto absorbed all of the magic power from the beam. From what Naruto experienced before, he expected his body to take some time to convert the magic into his own, but this time it happened almost instantly. Not even a second passed before all of the magic he absorbed was converted into his own magic. However, this was not without its consequences. The moment he finished absorbing the magic, his body began to feel like it was on fire. He didn't know that the amount of magic he absorbed was more than 5 times the amount of magic he normally had, so his body was trying to adapt to the sudden increase of magic in his system. Right now, the burning sensation was his body knock him out so that it could deal with all of the extra magic in his body. However, Naruto fought through the pain. He knew that things were only going to get worse. Flying back towards the guild, he allowed himself to fall on his hands and knees as he tried to deal with the pain. Looking up, he could see that everyone was looking at him like he was insane. "What? You people make it look like you've never seen someone absorb a magic cannon blast before." Chuckling at his bad attempt at humor, he could see that Urza was pissed. "Urza, you can scold me all you want later. Right now, we have to deal with this, don't you agree?" Everyone could see how conflicted she was. She really wanted to scold Naruto for his stupidity, but at the same time she had to do her duty. We'll talk about this later. Can you still fight? Can I still fight? Standing up, he let his magic run loose and the effects from before were even more pronounced. The earth rumbled, the water created giant waves, the air churned like there was a tornado, lightning flashed in the sky, and with a snap of his fingers fire blazed to life in a circle around him. I can fight all day long. Well, I didn't expect you to survive that. It looks like Makarov has quite the young mage in his guild. However, don't expect to survive another blast. You have 15 minutes before the Jupiter cannon is recharged. Tremble in fear as you pitifully fight to stay alive. Jose's voice made the situation worse for Fairy Tail. They didn't know how they were supposed to fight a moving guild. However, the biggest problem at the moment was the Jupiter cannon. If they didn't disable it, then Naruto or Urza was going to have to stop the blast, and from the way Naruto reacted after absorbing the blast, he wouldn't be able to absorb another blast, and having Urza take the blast for them was out of the question. That meant that the only option was to take out the cannon before it fired. Natsu! Go and take out the cannon. Make sure it doesn't fire again. Before Natsu could say anything, Kana turned their attention back to the walking guild as shadows began to move. Those are shades. They are created from Jose's magic. Don't let them touch you. They'll drain your strength if they do. Urza's warning was taken seriously by everyone, including Naruto. Naruto didn't know exactly how well his absorption would work on them. He was going to try and absorb one to see if he could find some sort of weakness in its magical structure. However, if he was gonna do that, he would need to trap one. Good thing he had recently acquired a lifetime of rune magic study. Going through the magic, he found exactly what he needed. It was a barrier seal that trapped things inside and wouldn't let them out until the caster allowed them to. Lighting his finger up with magic, he began to inscribe the seals into the ground in front of him. He could have created runes from his magic, but inscribing them was much more useful than the magic ones at the moment. Finishing his barrier, he saw the runes disappear into the ground. Grinning, he waited as the shades began to fly towards them. Moments before they reached them, Naruto's barrier activated and paralyzed all of the shades. Running up to one of the shades, he grabbed its head and absorbed it. He could feel the magic and knowledge flow into him. However, it wasn't anything he could use. He only got parts of what the shade was actually composed of. Frowning, he grabbed another and drained it as well. Again the knowledge came, and this time there was more knowledge, but again it wasn't enough. As everyone was taking out the shades, he understood what happened. The other times, he gained a lot of knowledge because of the amount of magic that was put into it. The magic chest had an incredible amount of magic put into it that rivaled that of the lacrima inside it. However, these shades were another matter entirely. In order to create such an amount, there was just barely enough magic in them to function. So in order to completely understand these shades, he would have to absorb quite a few of them. Sighing, he got back into the action. However, making any sort of movement hurt quite a bit. He was lucky that the painful feeling actually went down a bit when he cast the barrier. Using magic made the pain disappear a bit, so that meant he was gonna have to burn through quite a bit of magic in order to actually feel better. As tore through the shades and absorbed them, he could see the cannon begin to charge up. That wasn't good. However, he had to get rid of these shades if he was actually gonna do something about that cannon. These things are annoying. Naruto, can you make another barrier? Mikao asked as he punched the shade out of existence. Sunlight shot. Hey, light magic destroys these things pretty easily. Anyone with light magic use it. Alzak's voice was carried over throughout the battlefield, and those that could use light magic began to use it much more liberally. Makes sense. They're composed of darkness magic, so light magic should be their weakness. And if that's true, then I have the perfect spell to use. Grinning, blasted the shades near him away with a burst of light magic. Here we go! 100 pillars of light. Shooting a beam of light into the air, it then split into 100 smaller beams and destroyed 100 of the shades near them and those that were coming at them. It bought them a few seconds to catch their breath. Another barrier, right? I'll make it a better one. Setting up the same barrier up as before, he expanded the size of it in order to catch more of the shades. While the shades were being destroyed, he set up another barrier behind them. He saw that some of the more injured members weren't able to defend themselves too well, and they were being attacked more often than the others. So he was setting up a protection barrier in order to keep them safe. At the same time, they could attack the shades outside the barrier so they could help. Hey! Those that are injured or hurt, and can't defend themselves should get into the barrier behind me. It'll protect you, and at the same time you can help fight. He could see people throwing relieved looks at him as they fought their way to the barrier. Once the first person entered, the barrier activated and created a wall of light that separated the shades from the people inside. As the people got inside and fought, he surrounded his body in light magic in order to protect himself. Dashing through the battlefield, he started punching and kicking all of the shades into oblivion. Every once in a while he would blast a few shades with a burst of light magic in order to keep them from attacking someone from behind. Looking at the Jupiter cannon, he could see that it was building up a blast. Urza didn't look worried in the least, so he would believe in Natsu and continue protecting the guild. As he kept blasting the shades, he also began to absorb them again. He had an idea of how they were made, but not exactly. He could tell that he wouldn't be able to gather enough information to find some weakness in them, but any information could be valuable. Boom! Jerking forward and falling from the explosion, Naruto looked behind him as he saw the cannon barrel fall apart. Apparently Natsu was able to destroy the cannon. With the Jupiter destroyed, we have a chance. Take out the shades. Kana's yell was able to make all of the mages fight with renewed vigor. Naruto smirked when the shades began to withdraw, but he lost his smirk when he saw the Phantom Guild begin to change. He was pretty sure that he wasn't the only one that got freaked out by he was seeing. No way. It's a magic giant. Weren't those decommissioned? How the hell does Phantom Lord have a war machine? Loki's yell just told everyone exactly in how much trouble they were in. Kneel before me, fairy tale. Tremble in fear in the last few moments of your life. Jose's voice rang out from the giant. A giant and ghosts. This is gonna almost impossible. Bisca stated as she readied her machine guns. Just focus on the shades. Natsu will take care of the giant for us. Kana told everyone as she readied her cards once more. But Natsu isn't good with vehicles. Mikao regretfully stated. Everyone instantly stopped what they were doing and felt dread seep into their bodies. Urza. Go help Natsu. We can handle the things out here. Gray and Elfman are already inside and they'll probably need your help more than us. Nodding, Urza equipped into a different armor in order to allow her flight. However, as Urza was flying, the giant began to write a magic circle into the air. Wait, that circle? That's Abyss Break. That's a forbidden spell, and with that size it'll wipe out all of Magnolia as well. Loki's words just let everyone know exactly in how big of a mess they were in. From the speed that it's writing, it'll take about 10 minutes before it's finished. Hopefully everyone inside can destroy the power source before it finishes. If not, then I'll try and stop the spell, but I don't think I'll be successful this time. It's alright, Naruto. We'll figure something out. Besides, we can't have the youngest member showing up everyone. Wakaba's voice let Naruto know that everyone was still willing to fight. Stop attacking our guild. I'm the one you want. Turning their heads, everyone could see Mira transformed into Lucy trying to get Jose to stop attacking the guild. What do you think you're trying to pull? I've known all along that Lucy wasn't in the guild. With that, Mira cancelled her transformation. So he knew all along? Kana's voice drifted over to Naruto as he kept blasting the shades away. Mira! Turning around at Kana's yell, he saw Mira get sucked into a magic portal and reappear in one of the giant's hands. For trying to deceive us, you get the pleasure of watching your friends be destroyed while being slowly crushed. Jose spoke as Mira began to scream in pain. Damn it! Can someone get to her? Asked Kana as she destroyed the shades around her. I'll go! 100 pillars of light. As his attack destroyed the shades around him, Naruto activated Era and flew towards Mira. However, before he reached his destination, Elfman, using a full body takeover, freed her from its grip. You're both alright? Asked Naruto as he reached Elfman and Mira. Yes, we're fine. We have to make sure Natsu, Gray, and Urza are alright. Nodding to Mira, Naruto was going to follow them, but he then got an idea. I'll catch up. I'm gonna look at something. Nodding to him, Mira and Elfman entered the hole where Elfman came out of. Flying down to the hole where the cannon was, he looked around. He could see the lacrima inside was destroyed, but when he concentrated he could see that they still had quite some magic left inside them. Walking up to what remained of the red lacrima, Naruto placed his hands on it, and began to prepare for even more pain than what he was already feeling. Absorb instantly, he could feel his body protesting against absorbing even more magic. Gritting his teeth, he kept draining the lacrima until it was empty. Staggering away from the lacrima, he went towards the blue one. Absorbed, while the lacrimas he was draining weren't fully charged, they had quite a bit of magic in them. It wasn't as much as the cannon blast had, but it was still enough to notably increase his magical power. Crawling towards the yellow lacrima, he placed his hand on it. Absorb. Ag. The magic inside the lacrima went into Naruto's body, and it felt as if his body was going to explode. Once the lacrima was emptied, he dropped to the ground. His body was so filled with pain he couldn't even move. Laying on the ground, Naruto couldn't do anything except look at the giant hand as it finished the Abyss Break magical seal. Seeing it glow, Naruto couldn't help but feel helpless as he felt he let everyone down, and they were going to die. However, before the seal could fully activate, everything began to fall apart. The hand that was drawing the magic seal fell of the magic giant, and into the water below. Before Naruto could even try and get up, he felt the ground fall down towards the water. Unfortunately, because of the giant hole in the giant, the room he was in was rapidly filling with water. Seeing that if he didn't try and get up he would drown, Naruto began the painful task of standing up. Falling several times, Naruto was successful in at least standing. However, any sort of movement was difficult. Activating his Era magic again, he flew himself out of the hole and swam up until he broke the surface. Gasping for breath, he used water magic to push himself upwards, and then he used wind magic to propel himself up into the air. Flying up, he began focusing to see where the greatest concentration of magic was in the giant. Spotting a large source of magic near the head of the giant, he began to fly towards it, and blew a hole into the giant. Flying through the smoke, he was rewarded to the sight of Urza fighting Jose while Gray, Elfman, and Mira were thrown against the walls of the room. What's this now? Another fairy here for me to destroy? Jose spoke while he stopped attacking Urza to speak to Naruto. Naruto! What are you doing here? He's much too strong for you. Urza yelled at Naruto. Don't worry about me. I'll be fine. I've been getting ready for this. With that, Naruto released his magical power, but instead of the usual effects it instead shone like the sun. Naruto could tell that he piqued Jose's interest. What do you say, Urza? We fight this guy together? Seeing his magical power, Urza was more willing to let him fight, but she still didn't want him fighting Jose too bad. She didn't really have much of a choice. Fine, just make sure you take care of yourself. I won't be able to help you as I'll be busy myself. Chuckling, Naruto nodded to her. It doesn't matter how many of you fairies come at me at once. I'll destroy you, and when I'm done I'll let everyone see your mutilated corpses and let them wallow in their despair. Jose spoke as he raised his hands in preparation to attack. In order to do that, you need to defeat us first. 100 pillars of light. Instead of shooting the light up into the air, he shot the light towards Jose. It was also a much stronger blast than usual. Naruto was trying to ease his pain by overloading his spells with more magic than usual. This resulted in more powerful magical attacks. Jose was prepared for the magic blasts by creating magical seals that took all of Naruto's attacks easily. However, they were more of a distraction as Urza appeared behind Jose in her black wing armor and tried to cut into his back. Unfortunately, Jose was prepared and he disappeared and reappeared down further into the room. Is that really all that you can do? A simple distraction and an attack behind me? That's what novices do. I really expected more. Jose's taunting was met with a scowl from Urza and a sneer from Naruto. Solar satellites. Around Naruto's body, 10 orbs of light were created and flew off towards Jose. Jose just dodged around the orbs with little trouble. In fact, he seemed almost amused at what Naruto was trying to do. Filling his body with light magic, he sped towards Jose and tried to fight him in hand-to-hand. Once again, Jose just dodged with little trouble. Speeding up, Naruto tried to hit Jose once, but instead Jose just left his sight and appeared behind Naruto. Sending a blast of darkness magic at Naruto from behind, Jose was surprised that instead of inflicting damage it seemed to look like it was absorbed into Naruto's body. That moment of surprise was enough for Urza to capitalize on, and she was able to successfully land an attack on Jose. The feeling of success was fleeting though, as when Jose got back on his feet, he was unhurt and enraged. Jose put a massive amount of magic into his hands and sent 2 skeletal-looking blasts of darkness magic. Urza was able to dodge the blasts quick enough, but Naruto wasn't. He was caught in both of the skeletal blasts, but before they could hurt him too much he absorbed the magic in them. Falling to his hands and knees he tried to gather his breath before he had to jump out of the way as Jose was sending small but destructive bullets of darkness magic at them. Rolling out of the way, he was lucky that Urza began to engage Jose in another close-quarters fight. Gathering his breath, Naruto began to inscribe the ground with runes. The barrier he was going to erect would be able to paralyze Jose long enough that Urza would be able to attack him while he drained Jose of his magic. Looking up, he could see that Urza was doing amazingly well. In fact, it didn't even look like she needed help, but he doubted that Jose was showing his true strength. Gathering his solar satellites, he dashed towards Jose and threw a large beam of light magic at him to get him to jump away from Urza. From there his solar satellites began to orbit around Jose, and as Jose was looking at the satellites, Naruto transformed them into magical circles which overlapped so that it left no openings. Naruto then shot a beam of light magic into the circles to activate his attack. Eradicating radiance, the magical circles each unleashed beams of light straight onto Jose, who didn't look at all fazed. As the attack ended, they were greeted to the sight of Jose surrounding himself in his skeletal darkness magic which protected him from the magical blast. Jumping back, Naruto was happy to see that Urza followed him. All he had to do was hope that Jose fell for the trap. Before Naruto could do anything else, Jose disappeared from their views, and right before he could grab Naruto by his throat, the barrier trap paralyzed him. Jumping forward, Naruto grabbed Jose's face with his hand and then wrapped his whole body around Jose's. Absorb. That was all the warning Jose got before his magic was ripped out of his body. The pain was excruciating for both Naruto and Jose. As they screamed in pain, Naruto was wondering what sort of side effects this could have on him later on. He was brought back to reality when he felt Jose begin to struggle against the barrier. Concentrating even more, Naruto began to drain Jose's magic even faster. Naruto couldn't tell how much magic Jose had left, but he knew that he had a ton. The amount of magic he drained from Jose was roughly half of what he absorbed from the Jupiter Cannon. While draining Jose's magic, Naruto didn't realize that he was also draining the knowledge that Jose had about using his magic. Naruto knew that he was moments from a world of pain as he could feel that Jose was close to breaking free. But he was saved by Urza as she began to attack Jose from behind. She usually wouldn't attack someone like that, but she was making an exception. Unfortunately, for both Naruto and Urza, the barrier chose that moment to break, and they were both sent flying away from Jose in a blast of magic. Getting up slowly, Naruto's stomach dropped when he saw that Jose was beyond angry. His scara had turned pitch black and his entire body was cloaked in darkness magic. Naruto knew that they wouldn't be able to survive if Jose was actually taking things seriously, but thankfully help came in that moment. As a bright light began to filter in from the outside, he could see that his clothes began to repair themselves a bit. Looking at Urza, he saw that her armor was being repaired as well. Looking at the bright source of light, he let a huge grin appear on his face as he saw Makarov float down slowly. Much blood has been spilled today. Much of that blood the blood of children. All because of their parent. While Makarov was speaking quite calmly, the veins popping from his forehead said otherwise. Naruto, Urza, get everyone out of here. Nodding at his command, Naruto began to help Mira stand up as Urza helped Elfman and Gray. Running out of the hole that he made, Naruto could tell that they had won. Picking up Mira in a bridal carry, much to her protests, he jumped out of the hole and activated his era to fly back towards the guild only to see that a giant shadow orb had destroyed the guild. While sad, he was more glad that everyone wasn't too hurt and that his barrier had held up. Putting down Mira, he flew and grabbed Urza before she could protest. Urza, seeing the giant shadow orb, allowed herself to be thrown at the creature before she slashed it in half. Seeing that with Urza back in the fight everyone began to fight harder, he flew back to pick up Gray or Elfman, but he saw Gray had made an ice bridge to cross the water. Before Naruto could join the fight again, a bright light came from the magic giant. He could hear Urza explain that it was Fairy Law, a legendary spell that could banish any evil with sacred light. Hearing that everything was gonna be okay, Naruto allowed himself to float back to the guild and collapse. He didn't hear the yells of concern as he allowed the pain to take him over. Get that damn light out of my face, grumbled Naruto as he tried to get away from the light. Finally awake, Naruto? You've been sleeping for quite a while. Opening his eyes to look at who spoke, Naruto was greeted with the beautiful visage of Mira Jane. Mira? How long have I been sleeping? Normally, Naruto would have tried to jump out of bed, but he couldn't actually move. Lifting his head, he saw that he was actually in a hospital bed. And why am I in the hospital? Well, you've been asleep for a week and a half. As for why you're in the hospital, your body was apparently falling apart from the massive influx of magic you absorbed. Your body wasn't adjusted to having so much magic in it, so in trying to hold it all in, it put a humongous amount of stress on you. The doctors were actually amazed you were able to move at all. Mira Jane finished with a big smile. So that explains why I can't move. Actually, why am I not in any pain? At the moment, everything seemed to be a bit fuzzy to Naruto. Oh, that's just the painkillers. In fact, it's amazing you're actually coherent. With the amount of painkillers you have going through you, you shouldn't even be able to make sentences. Mira Jane told Naruto while having an amazed expression on her face. Well, I'm just awesome. Though, I really don't want to be awake when the painkillers stop. Naruto told Mira Jane as he put his head back on the pillow. That's understandable. Oh, Master also wanted me to tell you that because of how you handled yourself in the guild war, you're now eligible to take on all types of quests except for S-rank quests unless you have an S-rank wizard with you. Mira Jane finished telling Naruto with beaming smile. That's awesome, but I think I'll celebrate later. I'm gonna try and sleep this off. Thanks for telling me, Mira. Naruto explained to Mira Jane with a smile. Alright then, have a good rest, Naruto. Once again Naruto received another beaming smile. Nodding to her, as that was all he could do since he could feel himself falling asleep, he let his eyes close. Time skipped 3 days later. Finally out of that damn hospital. Now, should I take a quest or practice my magic? Oh, who am I kidding, I can do both. Running towards the guild, he was happy to see that it was still early enough that he could take a good enough quest to finally get himself his own home. It was fun staying at the guild, but he wanted his own place to relax. Looking at where the guild used to stand, he was amazed to see how far they had progressed. However, he was pretty sure that the guild wasn't as big as they were making it. Maybe they were renovating? Going through the work site, he was greeted by everyone in the guild as he walked. Waving back to them, he put a big grin on when he saw that everyone was doing well. Naruto, I'm glad to see you're out of the hospital. Here to take on a mission? Makarov asked as he sipped his drink. Of course. I can't sit still after being in that hospital for 2 weeks. Any good monster hunting missions? Raising an eyebrow at Naruto's request, Makarov just shrugged. I don't know. Go ask Mira. She's usually in charge of that. Also, you might want to leave before Urza finds you. Everyone told me about the reckless thing you did and how angry Urza was. While it's been a while, she can hold on to her anger. If I were you, I'd try and bribe her with some strawberry cake. It's her favorite. Nodding at Makarov's good idea, Naruto went to find Mira Jane. Mira! Any monster hunting missions? Startled, Mira Jane turned around from cleaning the bar. Oh, Naruto, don't sneak up on me like that. Wait, you want a monster hunting mission? Are you sure? Mira Jane was reminded about the last monster hunting mission she went on. She knew that Naruto was capable, but with him being so close to her sister's age when she died, she couldn't help but feel worried. Don't worry. I've been on monster hunting missions before. It was before I joined the guild. Seeing Naruto's confidence in himself, she was able to feel better. Alright then. We have a few monster hunting missions. There's one where you have to take care of a group of Vulcans, another where a village is being attacked by a monster at night, and lastly to stop a monster that's been seen stalking a village. Which one seems to be the best for you? Mira Jane could only giggle after seeing his face. He was thinking a lot on which one to take. Which one has the highest reward? Naruto asked. He had a good sum of money saved, but he needed new clothes. The ones he had on were getting ragged. The monster stalking the village. It has the biggest reward of 500,000 jewels. It has a pretty big reward, but because of how far away it is, no one has actually taken it. Mary Jane told Naruto as it looked like he finally made up his mind. I'll take it. Giggling at his enthusiasm, Mary Jane signed out the mission toward him. Be careful, alright? Many sort of things can go wrong on a mission. Seeing that she was unusually serious, Naruto nodded. I will be careful. I promise that I'll come back in one piece. Smiling at his promise, she handed him the request sheet. Waving goodbye, Naruto ran out of the guild and activated his era. He needed to get to Tully Village. Tully Village wasn't that much different than the village he grew up in, Naruto noted. It had the same type of atmosphere, people, and pace of life. Except this village had an old clock tower before it was destroyed by some reckless fire mage, who also destroyed 7 other homes. Let's see hunt creature that terrorizes village at night. Speak with the mayor for details. Note that details about the creature are scarce and that it hasn't actually been seen. Be prepared for all sorts of situations. Well now, this is a first. Naruto hadn't read the sheet when he received it. He was too excited about finally getting to leave the hospital. However, now that he read it, he was surprised about how little was known. Monster hunting requests were often requested after it had begun to cause problems. Here it seemed like they were scared of something they had yet to actually see. Frowning, Naruto really hoped that the monster he was hunting was actually a monster, and not some animal that he had to scare off. He really wanted to get into some sort of fight where he could go all out. Sighing, he put his hands into his pockets and went towards City Hall. Hello, how may I help you today? Asked the young man at the desk. I'm from Fairy Tail and I'm here about the monster hunting mission. Is the mayor in? Naruto had done similar work before, but never before had the person across from him just get up and hug him. Thank you? Thank you? We can't tell you how much of a relief this is for us. We've been living in fear for the past few weeks, and we didn't think anyone was going to come help us after all that time, cried the man as he hugged and cried into Naruto's shirt. Don't worry, I'm here now and I'll do my best to make sure that this monster is gone. Looking up, the man began to cry even more from the sincerity of Naruto's face. So you're the mayor? Shouldn't you have a secretary or something? Everywhere else he had to been to, the mayor always had a secretary. Usually a young pretty woman. Usually yes, but I decided not to have one. However, let's get right to the problem at hand. Every night for the past few weeks in the surrounding forests and canyons we have heard horrible sounds. Sounds so wretched that it feels like you're going to die from the very sound of it. The children are the worst affected. We don't know why, but every night when it happens they all begin to cry at the sound of it. Naruto frowned at the mayor's tale. He didn't know any sort of animal that could create that sort of sound. For some reason it fills everyone that hears it with dread. We don't know why, and we've had dozens of doctors examine the children to see if there was something wrong with them, but nothing. We were losing hope of things ever returning to normal, so you know that it's a big relief to us to know that you came. The mayor stated with a small smile. To Naruto it looked like a man who was about to fall apart. Don't worry, Mr. Mayor. I'll do everything I can to stop this. You have my word. Thank you. It happens every night around midnight. We would have sent someone to investigate, but like I said, that sound keeps everyone from trying. You could see that it pained the mayor to say that they were all too scared by the noise to see what it actually was. It's alright, even if you had investigated, and it was a monster, it would have just killed whoever you sent. Standing up, Naruto looked at the man in the eyes. I'll investigate this tonight, and when I hear the noise I'll go straight towards it. As he left the building, Naruto took a better look at everyone around him. How did I not notice it before? Their eyes and body language. They're all exhausted, and won't be able to keep it up much longer. I have to figure out what's making that sound and stop it. This village won't survive if I don't. Naruto thought to himself as he noticed the people around him. I should scout the surrounding area to make sure that I have a rough map of the area if I have to move quickly. With that, Naruto went into the surrounding woods and canyons. He wasn't sure of it himself, but he was pretty sure that as he scouted the area out he was being watched. He couldn't tell if it was malicious or not, but it put him on edge. Sir, I have some unfortunate news for you. It appears that the mayor was able to get a mage here to help them. We don't believe he'll be strong enough to stop us, but he could stall our plans long enough for someone stronger to arrive. A cloaked figure stated as he knelt before a figure that was cloaked in shadows. Finally! I was getting bored of just supervising. I was this close to turning all of you to ash. Hopefully he can relieve my boredom, or I might turn you all to ash anyway. The maniacal laughter that followed only made the knelling figure shake in absolute terror, as he knew that the man before him would do so without warning. Master Zenkro, are you sure you want to fight him? He could get in the way and the fighting might scare away the creature. This came from another cloaked figure who was in the same get-up as the one who was knelling, but he had a scepter in his hand and was standing next to a door along with another cloaked figure. I don't care. With that he sent a wave of black flames toward the one who spoke last, and the man was turned to ash before he could even scream. We'll make sure to capture the creature while you fight the mage, sir. The knelling figure knew better than to say something that could anger Zenkro. Make sure you do so or I'll turn you to ash. Once again maniacal laughter filled the room as the knelling figure quickly walked away and only spared a small glance at the final guard at the door before he left. The poor guard might make it through the night if he didn't draw attention towards himself. The last one didn't because he didn't know to keep his mouth shut. Get that thing into position. If you don't do this right, I'll burn all of you. The maniacal laughter only served to make the cloaked wizards more nervous than they already were. The creature they were moving into position had already killed many of their allies in the weeks before. No matter how weak it seemed, it always seemed to have enough strength to fight. However, the creature was dying from the loss of power, and they themselves almost had enough for what they needed. Tonight they would drain it completely, and then Zankro would destroy the creature. Something he had wanted to do for quite a while. As they laid the creature on the large magic seal on the ground, they made sure to step on its once glorious wings. The creature seemed proud of its wings, so they made to break the wings and strip the feathers from them. All that remained was skin and broken bones. They made sure that the creature didn't get sick, or it could die before they were finished. However, since tonight was its final night, they could abuse it as much as they wanted to. Hurry up. I wanted to scream again. That way that mage gets here and I'll have something to do. The frown on Zankro's face made all of them work twice as fast. It was nearing midnight and they only had a few things to finish. As the mages gathered around the magic circle, they all put their hands in a prayer position and began to activate the magic circle. The circle turned from a dark purple to pure black. As this happened, the creature in the middle began to be surrounded by a pure white light. However, that light only lasted for a second before it began to arc away from the creature into a lacrima they had prepared. As it was being drained, they could all hear the scream. It sent a deep chill through their bodies and most of them were rather disturbed by it. Zankro, on the other hand, seemed to be enjoying it immensely if his incredibly wide grin was anything to go by. Keep it up. If you keep this pace you should be finished before sunrise. If you don't, I'll begin to burn one of you for every extra minute. As he finished speaking, Zankro could see that the rate of magic being drained increased a tiny bit. What the hell are you doing? Grinning maniacally at the yell, Zankro turned around to see the wizard that they detected earlier that day. About time you got here. Any longer and I might have begun burning down the forest just to smoke you out. Glad I didn't have to, because now I can burn it, and you together. Laughing as he finished, Zankro's body began ignited with black flames. Now then, entertain me. With that he charged at Naruto, and swung his flame-covered fists trying to hit him. One good thing about being short, Naruto realized, is that people have trouble hitting me. Stop moving and let me burn you. The frown on Zankro's face made Naruto grin as he danced around all of Zankro's attacks. Is that really all you can do? Guess I don't have to worry about being hit now, do I? Naruto had expected Zankro to become reckless in his attacks, but instead he jumped back with a frown and clapped his hands together. Pulling them apart, he created a flame scythe that he then swung at Naruto. Ducking, Naruto looked behind himself to see the devastation, and saw that Zankro had destroyed a large amount of the forest behind him. Looking forward, he was blasted back by a burst of black flames. Trying to absorb the flames, he was shocked to see that they were actually burning him faster than he could absorb them. Panicking, he sent a burst of wind magic from his body to push the flames away and was rewarded with a small window to escape. Launching himself from the flames, he looked back to see that the flames had devoured his wind magic and become larger. Panting from his near-death experience, he activated something he had worked on during the days he was stuck in the hospital. Archive was a great magic that allowed a person to analyze anything they found. However, in order to get the best results, one had to activate all of Archive. This was not necessarily the best thing to do in a combat situation, as the monitors got in the way of a person's vision, so Naruto found a way to circumvent that. He had Archive form into 2 orange lenses that covered his eyes, much like how contacts would. He then had Archive link with his rinnegan. That had been a painful experience. It connected with his optic nerves in his eyes so that the orange screens wouldn't affect sight, and the rinnegan's optical abilities were greatly enhanced. He didn't have to concentrate in order to see magic. It allowed for faster information processing, so that meant he could understand more complex magics better without having to absorb them. It even had a counter to signify exactly how much magic was being put into spells so that he would know whether or not he could actually do something about it. It also let him know if the magic he was facing was something similar to a magic he knew. If it did, then he would have an idea about how to fight against it. Looking around at all the destruction and at the still burning black fires, he was rewarded with a number counter that showed that the small flames were filled with a large amount of magic. The density of magic is keeping me from absorbing it fast enough to prevent injury. This means that I have to be a hell of a lot more careful than I usually am. As Naruto thought to himself, he had to jump out of the way as Zankro came laughing out of the forest and swinging his scythe. Staying out of the reach of the scythe proved to be difficult, as Zankro could actually control the length of the scythe, so at times he had to fall on his back in order to keep from being decapitated. Jumping back to gain distance, he was relieved to see that Zankro had dissipated his scythe and was staring intently at him with a wide grin on his face. Trying to regain control of his breathing, he decided that if his opponent was gonna be attacked with fire, then he would as well. Lighting his hands on fire, he sent a blast of the strongest flames he could make straight at Zankro. Flames of Armageddon. This was a spell that Natsu had helped him make. It compressed fire magic into a tight ball and then was quickly fed a large amount of magic to cause it explode outward. Natsu had said that it was almost as strong as his fire dragon's roar, and considering that Natsu considered his fire magic the best, he took great pride in it. Unfortunately for Naruto, Zankro took the fire with a giant grin on his face, covering his face to protect it from the heated air his spell caused. He looked to see that his fire had created a large crater, and in the middle of it the fire was still burning. However, before he could celebrate, he began to see that the fire was being sucked inside of something. Horror registered on Naruto's face as he realized what was happening. The sucking sound that came from the fire only confirmed what he was thinking. Zankro was in the middle of the raging inferno, sucking up all of the fire that was sent at him. Finished with his meal, he looked up to Naruto with a giant grin on his face. I must say that fire was very tasty. Are you a master of fire magic? Cause that was some of the best fire magic I have ever tasted. And believe me when I say that I've eaten a lot of fire. Now why don't I repay the favor? Sweat ran down Naruto's face when he heard those words, and the stance that Zankro took reminded him too much of Natsu's own breath stance. The giant gulp of air that followed only made Naruto realize exactly in how much trouble he was in. Flame God's Bellow. The giant blast of black flames quickly engulfed Naruto and destroyed the forest behind him. Laughter was all that came from Zankro as he relished in his victory. Looking at the giant trench he created, he didn't see anything that remained of Naruto. Laughing again, he began to walk back towards the ceremony. It was almost time to kill the creature. About a mile to the east of Zankro's position, Naruto gasped for air as he tried to calm himself down. He looked down at his hands to see them covered in burns. Closing his eyes, he leaned against a tree and slid down to the ground. He had almost died in that fight. It was by complete luck that he was even able to survive. As soon as he realized that he was going to die, his arc of space activated. It sent him a mile away from the fight. He didn't know how he knew the distance, but he took it as a blessing. He also knew that it had been completely by instinct that he had been able to activate arc of space. His survival instinct had activated the magic. He didn't imagine himself lucky enough to count on that again in order to save himself. He also didn't have enough experience in using arc of space to do that himself. If he went back to fight Zankro, he would die. It was useless to try and think of a way to fight him that wouldn't result in his death with his current level of skill. He had plenty of different magics he could use, but he didn't know how to use them well enough to make a difference in this fight. I'm an idiot. I've grown complacent with my level of skill. So what if I can use so many different kinds of magic? It means nothing if I can't use them well enough to actually make a difference. How the hell am I gonna become a wizard saint if I can't even use my magics to the best of its ability? Gritting his teeth, he stood up. As much as he hated to admit it, he couldn't fight Zankro again. It would only lead to his death, and that wouldn't get him anywhere. Plus he also had to save that creature. How they got such a creature here, he didn't know, but he would be damned if he didn't save it. He only had to escape Zankro, and he could do that. Activating Era, he flew up towards the sky until he could see all of the forest beneath him. He flew west and quickly came upon the scene of the poor creature being sucked dry of its magic. The creature's scream made him grit his teeth even harder than before, but he knew that if he tried to save it now, it would only result in both of their deaths. He just hoped that the creature could take the pain for a little while longer. Hurry up. I'm bored. That mage was fun, but he died. It shouldn't take that long to drain this thing of its magic. Everyone cowered away from Zankro as flames began to appear all over his arms. Almost done, Master Zankro. Only a few more minutes and the key will be done. Sighing, Zankro allowed the flames to recede. It was only a few more minutes and then he'd be able to kill the creature. That was enough to make him grin. As the minutes passed, the creature's scream began to get weaker and weaker. Finally it stopped screaming. At that, Zankro grinned even wider. It meant that it was completely drained of magic. Standing up, he lit his hand on fire and grinned as he prepared to set the creature on fire. However, an explosion at his side made him look away, and because of that he only felt the displaced air of quick movement, and as he turned back to look, the creature was gone. Looking back towards Zankro's camp, he grinned at the giant torrent of black flames that pierced the sky. He might not have won the fight, but he was able to save the creature. Speaking of the creature, as he looked at it he was sure of what it was now. However, before he could think any further on it, he heard a weak voice in his mind. Who are you? The weakness in the voice made Naruto's heart clench in pain. It didn't sound right. I'm a friend. I'm sorry I wasn't able to help you earlier. Do you know how you were brought here? That was one of the main things Naruto wanted to know. How did they get such a creature here? I remember getting called here. I had never been to this place before, so I wanted to investigate. Unfortunately, I didn't know that it was a trap. What was worse was that my power was very limited here. I didn't know I had been weakened until the man with the black flames attacked me. Somehow, his flames were able to hurt me, and as we fought I noticed that I was getting weaker. I didn't notice the giant crystal that was taking my power until I couldn't stand. By then I was at their mercy, and since then they have drained most of my power. I only have minutes to live. Isn't there any way that you can regain your power? Naruto wanted to do anything he could to be able to help it. A creature such as itself shouldn't have had to go through that. There isn't. As I am only spirit, I can't exist in the mortal world for long. I don't even have enough power to return to my own home. I'm going to die in a world that is alien to me. The hopelessness in its voice made Naruto tear up. As he closed his eyes, he began to think of all the magics he knew of. Nothing he could think of could actually help, until he remembered take over magic. You housed the thing you took over inside your soul, so why not something similar? What if you rested within me? Inside my own soul? I have plenty of magic and you can siphon some of it off in order to help you regain your own. Naruto saw that it was moving its head in the negative. It would be impossible. It would work for now, but as I regained my power your soul would be unable to handle the strain. It would burn out your soul and it would kill me along with it. I wouldn't have enough power to create a gateway to my home even if we waited until the absolute last moment. But it would help you survive, right? It would give us more time to come up with a better solution. It's our only shot and I'm not going to let you die. So either accept my offer or I'll take you into my soul and botch up the process. Naruto was pretty sure that the creature was looking at him with a stupefied expression. You won't be able to convince me otherwise. So just accept. Looking into his eyes, the creature slowly nodded. Closing his eyes, Naruto could feel the creature in his arms disappearing and going into his own soul. By the way, we never introduced ourselves. I'm Naruto Uzumaki. Fairy Tale Wizard. He could feel the creature nodding at him. That is true. My name is Gabriel. Archangel. I don't feel right about taking the reward money, but I did technically finish the mission. No matter how much of a pain in the ass it was, Naruto thought to himself as he walked towards the guild. He needed to inform Makarov about what happened. Hopefully Urza wouldn't be there because he still hadn't gotten her cake. Walking through the almost finished guild, he found the master sitting at the bar, drinking. Hey Gramps. I've got something to tell you about my last mission. Raising an eyebrow at this, Makarov signaled Naruto to follow him towards his office. Now what happened? Did you meet a lady friend? This was followed by a small giggle that didn't sound right coming from Makarov. No. Naruto deadpanned. It's about a group of people I met during the mission. I don't know what group they were affiliated with, but the leader I met had red eyes, blonde hair, and could control a black flame. I was lucky I wasn't killed, but the most worrisome part was that they were able to summon a real angel. Makarov's eyes grew wide with worry with what he had heard. He had heard about people summoning angels before, but this was long ago. Before even the time of Zerif. Why did they summon the angel? This was the most important thing. If they could find out why it was summoned, then they could figure out if another would be summoned and stop it from happening. I overheard that they were draining it of its magic in order to create a key. I'm not sure for what though. Rubbing his chin at what Naruto told him, he could think of a number of reasons why one would want to create a key from the magic of a being of light. However, none of them were good for anybody. Thank you for telling me, Naruto. I'll be sure pass this information along to the council. They'll need to hear about this. Nodding at that, Naruto left Makarov's office and went into town. He really needed to get that cake. Here's the strawberry cake. Have a good day, said the lady at the counter. Thank you, Naruto told her as he carried the cake back towards the guild. He'd asked Mirajane to give it to Urza as a bribe so that she didn't try and punish him for what he did. However, as he was walking he noticed something. Everyone had stopped moving. It wasn't that they stopped for something, they literally stopped moving, even those who were midway in doing something. Activating his battle archive, as he had begun to call it, he looked around and saw that all of the magic in the air was actually being used to stop time. However, looking at himself he saw that he was surrounded by a glowing barrier of his own magic. It seemed that his body was acting on its own to keep him from being affected by the time magic. Zooming in on a bird high in the sky, he realized it too was being affected. Whatever was stopping time was doing it on a massive scale. He couldn't even pinpoint the origin of it. Activating his era, he flew up slowly, being mindful of the cake. He looked into the horizon and confirmed that the time stop was all over the world. Turning around slowly, he saw, in the opposite direction of the guild, a strange arrangement of stars and water flowing up into the sky. Focusing in on it, he saw that that was the source of the time stop. It was too far for him while he was carrying a cake, so he had to settle on just looking at it. He wasn't surprised when a few minutes later time returned to normal, and the water, at the epicenter of it all, began to fall again. Floating back down, he saw that everyone was fine and they hadn't noticed the time stop. Walking back towards the guild, he saw that people were running all over the place. Looking at them all, he was asking people what happened, but no one was telling him. Frowning, he walked over to the bar where he saw Mirajane cleaning with a frown on her face. Putting the cake on the bar, he asked Mirajane, "What's going on? I've asked everyone else, but they won't answer me." Looking at him, Mirajane explained what happened. Loki quit the guild. He's been acting strange these past few weeks, but no one knew why. Just yesterday he broke up with all of his girlfriends. Frowning at her answer, Naruto began to wonder what may have happened. I'll go look for him too. Can you put that cake in the fridge and give it to her, Urza, if you see her? Tell her it's a bribe so that she doesn't punish me for my reckless stunt. Giggling at his request, she did as she was asked. Naruto could always make people smile even if they didn't want to. Where the hell could Loki be? Naruto asked himself as he flew over the city of Magnolia. I don't know him well enough to know where he'd be at. Actually, come to think of it, no one does. Weird. Sighing, Naruto landed back in front of the guild and saw that there wasn't the only one who couldn't find Loki. However, before any of them could say anything about not finding Loki, they heard Lucy yelling at them. Loki's fine. I found him and he's okay. He'll be back tomorrow to explain everything. Sighing in relief, everyone began to head home, except for Naruto, who had gotten sidetracked and hadn't found a home to stay at. Face palming his forehead for forgetting, he walked back into the guild and stayed in the cot in the basement. First thing tomorrow, he decided, would be to get himself his own house. Walking back into the guild with a sigh at being unable to get his own home, he was greeted with the sight of Loki carrying out Lucy. Glad to see you're alright, Loki. You feeling better? Lucy stopped squirming when she heard Naruto speak. Yeah, I am better, thanks. Sorry I made you worry. Shaking his head, Naruto waved him off. Don't worry about it. I'm just glad that you're better. So you and Lucy, huh? And here I thought Celestial Spirit Wizard scared you. I guess you like the feeling of danger you get around her. The look on Lucy's face when Naruto finished was enough to make Naruto laugh until he fell over when he tried to find something to support himself. Yup, you got that right, Naruto. Now I'm going to be taking her on a romantic getaway. When Naruto heard this, he had to look at Loki to see if he was serious or not, but he couldn't tell. Right now you need to go back and rest. You're still not fully recovered from all your time here in the human world. Hearing that from Lucy made Naruto raise an eyebrow, but he quickly understood when Loki disappeared in a flash of particles after handing Lucy an envelope. He was a celestial spirit? I wasn't expecting that. Better question, how did he last as long as he did? Looking at Lucy, Naruto wasn't given a response as she just shrugged her shoulders. However, Naruto's train of thought was quickly changed when he remembered a certain key he bought weeks ago. Bringing it out of his pocket dimension, Naruto was assaulted with information about his own pocket dimension. He received information on how big it was, how many items were in it, and with the amount of magic at his disposal how much larger he could permanently make it. Blinking away the stars that came into his vision, he refocused on the information. Apparently, Arc of Space did more than just make gateways. Apparently, it could control dimensions of space. So that meant that if he had enough power, he could actually make an entire new world inside his own pocket dimension. Unfortunately, that was still far away and he needed to work on what he could do, not on what he might be able to do. Looking around, he noticed that Lucy, Urza, Gray, and Natsu were all leaving together. Shaking his head at the fact that he wouldn't be able to fight Natsu to better understand Dragon Slayer magic, he decided to work on what he did know. Also, he had to see about that magic he got from fighting Zankro. Walking behind the guild, he could see that the guild was going to be much larger than before. This also meant that he had less space to train with. Shaking his head, he decided to go into the canyons around town. The canyons were a good distance from Magnolia, so it wouldn't bother anyone if he went a bit crazy. Landing on top of a rock pillar, he looked around himself and decided that he was plenty far enough from the guild. Sitting down, he activated all of Archive. Looking through it, he opened one window with Dragon Slayer magic and another with the magic Zankro used. Looking through the information he gathered, he decided to watch the recording of the fight. Throughout the recording he could see how the magic was similar to what Natsu used. However, what bothered him the most was that the flames themselves were black, and from what Gabriel had told him, the flames were able to hurt a spirit like him, which was incredibly difficult to do. Maybe the color of the flame was more than just symbolic? Looking at the final part of the fight, he heard the spell being cast again, Flame God's Bellow. It was obvious that it was exactly the same as Dragon Slayer, except that it could hurt spirits, and he called it Flame God's Bellow. Could Zankro have been trained by a god? No, that wasn't possible. If he had been trained by a god, then Naruto wouldn't have even stood a chance. More than anything, he had probably been trained by a human who could use extremely powerful fire magic. The unfortunate part was that it was even more powerful than Fire Dragon Slayer magic. The pure density of the magic attested to that. Obviously, Natsu's magic would reach that stage one day, but it would be years before he could. Zankro seemed to be about the same age as Natsu, so that meant that either Zankro's magic was more powerful than Dragon Slayer magic, or it was derived from Dragon Slayer magic and modified. Naruto was betting on it being derived from Dragon Slayer magic. However, that brought up the question, what was modified? Pulling up the scans he had on Zankro and the information he had about Natsu, told him one thing. He didn't have enough information about Natsu and Dragon Slayer magic to actually make a good conclusion. Sighing and dismission archive, he stood up and stretched. Just as he was about to call up his magic, he saw something in the corner of his eye. It was the Phantom Lord Mage that destroyed their guild. Frowning at the memory of it, and what happened to his friends, he decided to confront him. Hey! Naruto could tell he startled the man as he jumped away from Naruto's position. What? Naruto could tell the guy wasn't happy to see him, but he wasn't happy to see him either. I'm wondering what a Phantom Lord Mage is doing around here. Naruto told the man as he dropped down to ground level. Phantom Lord got disbanded weeks ago. I'm just a wandering mage now. Humming at his answer, Naruto decided on what to do. Well, it sucks that you ended up crossing my path. 'Cause I'm still angry and you're the perfect punching bag. With that, Naruto released his hold on his magic and let it loose. However, unlike last time, this time he was surrounded by a ring of fire all around his body. The fire then changed shape to that of a dragon. He had decided to get some practice with Dragon Slayer magic. With the increase of magic he received weeks ago, the drain wasn't as bad and he knew more about it now, so his body wasn't trying to compensate for the changes that he knew were supposed to happen. So it meant stronger magic, with less of a drain. Naruto could tell that his little display got the guy's attention. He was surprised though when the guy's skin turned into metal scales. Frowning at it, he activated his battle archive. The information he received from it was amazing. The scales took whatever attribute the mage was using and turned it into a viable defense. On the battle archive, a small window popped up near the bottom right of his right eye and he could tell that it was comparing what he knew about Natsu on the guy across from him. Smirking at the idea of a fight and better understanding of Dragon Slayer magic, he lit his hands on fire and smirked at the guy across from him. I really hope you give me a good fight, because if you don't then I might hurt you way too much. Launching forward, Naruto sent his right flame-covered fist and tried to punch the guy in the face, but he ducked and uppercut Naruto with his left metal scale-covered fist. Naruto had been expecting the hit to hurt, but not enough that it actually knocked him senseless for a moment. However, that was plenty of time for him to punch Naruto in the stomach with his right hand. The punch was strong enough to launch Naruto into the pillar he was standing on before. Holding his stomach, Naruto tried to ease the pain. The punch was strong and if he hadn't been using Dragon Slayer magic he would have been sent back to the hospital. Struggling to get back up, he looked at his opponent. The guy was waiting for Naruto to get up, it seemed. That was strange considering a few weeks ago he had viciously attacked some defenseless members of his guild. Frowning at what he was thinking, he pushed himself up fully and decided to start over again, but this time with a bang. Taking a deep breath, he saw that the guy realized what he was trying to do. Fire Dragon's Roar! Iron Dragon's Roar! The two attacks met in the middle and began to fight for dominance. Unfortunately Naruto's was the weaker one and was pushed back, but Naruto had been prepared for that. He activated Era to get him out of the way of the breath attack and flew at the guy who was unprepared for the aerial maneuver. Covering his fist with the strongest flame he could, he punched the guy's right cheek. He grinned when he heard the crack of metal scales. He followed it up with a left hook and another right hook. The final right hook sent the guy flying, and as he struggled to get up from the beating he took to his face, he held his right cheek and saw that his scales had been smashed. Frowning and disengaging his metal scales, he stood back up ready to continue fight, but Naruto had deactivated his magic and sat down. As much as I would like to keep fighting you, it's going to do nothing for me. Your guild's been disbanded, Jose was arrested, and if I remember correctly, you got the crap beat out of you by Natsu. He already took care of my revenge, so fighting you would be pointless. Sighing at his own lack of fighting spirit, he looked back at the guy to see his reaction. He wasn't surprised to see that the guy was looking at him in suspicion. Sorry about attacking you like that. It's been a bit stressful lately, so I kinda took it out on you since you used to be in Phantom Lord. How about we start over? I'm Naruto Uzumaki. Naruto finished his introduction with a big grin. Sighing, the guy sat down as well. Gajio Red Fox. Nodding and storing the name, Naruto asked the first thing that came into his mind. So what have you been up to lately? I mean besides the whole me attacking you bit. Gajio snorted at Naruto's attempt at humor. There's not much a mage like me can do except to try and make a living. Especially when most of the Phantom Lord mages have been marked as dangerous and untrustworthy. Frowning at what he heard, Naruto tried to think of a solution. Why not join Fairy Tail? Naruto had not been expecting Gajio to just start laughing outright at his suggestion. Calming himself down, Gajio answered, Please. Do you really think that your master would allow me to join after what I did to his friends? Laughing once more, Gajio had not expected Naruto to answer his rhetorical question. Of course he would. Gramps' policy is to allow anyone to join no matter their past affiliation. He'll never be able to forgive you for what you did, but he wouldn't be able to live with himself if turned away someone who was trying to change their life. If he saw that you were attempting to change how you lived your life, he would accept you. Some of the other guild members probably wouldn't be so quick to change their opinion though. Naruto hadn't seen Gajio's surprised expression as he was currently looking at the stars in the sky while thinking about a certain group who might not accept Gajio so easily. I somehow doubt that. Looking at Gajio's face, Naruto couldn't help but feel sympathetic towards him. It looked like he had given up all hope. Frowning, Naruto was motivated to do what he had to. Standing up, he dusted himself off and offered his hand to Gajio. Looking at his hand, Gajio raised an eyebrow, but all Naruto did was grin. Gajio soon had that same grin on his own face. Grasping Naruto's hand, he allowed himself to be pulled up and lead towards Magnolia. Naruto frowned as he waited outside of Makarov's office. They had decided to wait until closing to see Makarov. That way no one else saw Gajio and he didn't have to try and defend himself in front of all of them. When they had walked in, Makarov was the only one left at the construction yard and they saw him sitting at the bar. He had been looking over some papers and he looked like he had been waiting for them. How did they know? Well, the fact that he wasn't surprised to see Gajio, or the fact that he only told Gajio to follow him towards his rebuilt office. From then on, Naruto had been waiting outside. He wanted to know what was being said inside, but nothing had exploded, so he was pretty sure that nothing bad had happened. Looking up while laying down on a table, he could make out all of the stars in the sky, and for some reason he remembered he had gotten tickets to the Akane resort. Calling them out from his pocket dimension, he pulled them out of the envelope to look at them. Reading them over, he looked at the date they expired and he let out a yell when he saw that they expired the very next day. Unfortunately, he also had 2 extra tickets. That meant he had to find 2 other people to go with him, or he would be wasting the gift that kind old man had given to him. Before he could think of who to go with, he turned at the sound of a door opening and saw Gajeel walk out with a fairy tale tattoo stamp on his shoulder. He grinned at him and gave him a thumbs up. Grinning up, Gajeel nodded towards him. Looking at Makarov, he nodded towards him as well before he left. Watching him leave, Naruto then turned back towards Makarov and Makarov answered his unasked question. I let him join after looking at him and seeing a young man who was trying to get out of the darkness that had been surrounding him his whole life. Nodding at the answer, Naruto then looked back at his hand and was trying to figure out what to do with them. Makarov turned and spotted the tickets and let out a small laugh. Trying to figure out who to ask to go with you? Why not just ask one of the pretty single girls in the guild? The way Makarov's eyebrows rose told Naruto all that he needed to know about what Makarov was thinking. Shaking his head, he then had an idea. Gramps, when was the last time you or Mira had a vacation? Stroking his chin at the question, Makarov could not answer as it had been quite some time since he had taken a vacation, and it had been a long time since Mira Jane had taken a day off to relax. Why don't you two come along with me? These things are gonna expire tomorrow, and you two have helped me a lot. This way I feel like I'm paying you back for everything you've done for me. Looking at Naruto, he decided that he should have some time to relax. The guild was fun and all, but sometimes it could get a bit too rowdy. Besides, it would only be for a few days and the guild wouldn't be destroyed as the most destructive members of the guild were all away. Alright then, Naruto. I'll take you up on your offer. I'll see you tomorrow bright and early at the train station. From there we'll head to the Akane resort. I have to go find someone to take over for a few days, so you'll have to ask Mira to see if she can make it. Nodding at Makarov, he went towards Mira Jane's home, which was actually in Fairy Hills. Hello? Anybody here? Naruto was waiting in the reception area of Fairy Hills, but no one was there. Deciding to just go on ahead, he started walking towards Mira Jane's room. He was lucky that Makarov had given him the room number. Standing in front of Mira Jane's door, Naruto knocked. He knew that the room belonged to Mira Jane. He knew it was kinda late. He also knew that some people like to bathe at night. Too bad for Naruto's hormones, Mira Jane liked to bathe at night. Opening the door with nothing but a small towel and water still clinging to her skin, Naruto's brain shut down. Mira Jane had been surprised to see that it had been Naruto who knocked on her door. Men were not usually allowed in Fairy Hills, but since Urza was away, that meant that he had been able through reception without any problems. Looking at Naruto, she couldn't help the giggle that came out, as Naruto's wide-eyed look was too much. Pushing his forehead, she was rewarded with him coming back and looking at her in the eyes. What is it, Naruto? It's a bit late for you to be visiting, don't you think? She giggled again as he seemed to have forgotten why he had been there. Oh, that's right. This is for you. You have been so helpful to me since we joined, so I thought I'd thank you for that by giving you this. Unfortunately, it expires tomorrow, so sorry if I'm not giving you much time to pack. Waving off his apology, she gave him a big smile. It's alright. I've always wanted to go to the Akane resort. Besides, I can get Kana to do bartending for a few days. She's always wanted to try her hand at it, and now she can. Smiling at his giant grin, she decided to mess with him a bit. She bent down and kissed his cheek. Naruto's wide eyes and red face made Mira Jane break out into giggles again. Bye, Naruto. Closing the door, Mira Jane left Naruto to stir in his raging hormones. A few minutes later, Naruto recovered enough body motion to slowly walk towards the exit. Once outside, he then jumped into the water behind Fairy Hills. It was enough for him to return to his senses. Using the heat from some fire magic, he dried his clothes. Looking at them again, he realized he had to buy some new clothes. Hopefully some shops were still open and he could get some new clothes. Plus all of the clothes he would need for the resort. Ugh, my stomach feels awful. Moaned a sickly-looking Naruto, who was sprawled over a train seat. Sitting across from him were Mira Jane and Makarov, who looked on in pity. Haven't you ever taken a train before, Naruto? Asked a curious Mira Jane. Nope, never took a train before, because I could always just run or fly wherever I needed to. If I had known I would feel this awful, I wouldn't have ever stepped on this devil machine. Replied a still moaning Naruto. Ugh, Gramps. Distract me with something interesting about magic. Yelled Naruto sickly. There's all kinds of interesting things about magic. It's impossible to just choose one. You need to be more specific. Stated Makarov. Usually, he would let his fairies learn about magic by themselves, but he felt pity for Naruto at the moment. Fine, what sort of legendary magics does Fairy Tail have? This was part of what piqued Naruto's interest when he heard about Fairy Tail. He heard that they had some amazing magics, and he wondered what sorts they had. Well, we have 3 legendary magics that were used by our founder Mavis Vermilion. They are Fairy Glitter, Fairy Law, and Fairy Sphere. I myself know Fairy Law, it's what I used to defeat Jose. Fairy Glitter, I have heard it uses light to attack. How it does this, I do not know. The last one, Fairy Sphere, is unknown to me. I know of its name, but I have no idea what it actually does. Seeing that Naruto was quite distracted by his explanation, he turned to Mira Jane. So, Mira, are you going to the beach? Maybe have an impromptu swimsuit contest with all of the other girls there? Grinning much too widely, he began to imagine all of the swimsuit-clad girls he would see on his little vacation. Shaking her head back and forth, Mira Jane allowed Makarov to have his little fantasy. More likely than anything, he would get drunk and waste all of his money at the casino, and he would probably get thrown out for harassing the women. Smiling at the thought, she turned to Naruto, who had begun to complain about his stomach pain again. Looking him over, she decided that he looked a lot better with his new clothes. A black shirt with a red vest. Dark orange pants, with brown shoes. It was simple, but it suited him. He didn't care much for flamboyance. In a few years he would be quite handsome. Too bad she was so much older than him. That and the fact that he was so short for his age. Actually, that wasn't normal. Naruto? Hearing his name called, Naruto turned to look at Mira Jane. Huh, I hope you don't get mad about this, but why are you so short? It's not normal to be so short for your age. Hearing genuine concern, he didn't get mad at the comment. He was wondering if he should really tell them about his condition. Sighing, he knew that he would have to tell them, but not necessarily at this moment. After all, they came to enjoy their vacation. His news would make that impossible. It's a condition I have. Don't worry about it. I'll tell you all later. We came to enjoy ourselves. So let's do that, alright? The grin on his face was infectious enough to make Mira Jane smile brightly and forget about her worry. Okay then, Naruto. Do you want to join me at the beach when we get there? I'd like to have a friend there who won't gawk at me. Well, someone who won't gawk as much. You're still a growing boy after all. Unless, of course, you don't like girls in that way. Her smile was slowly growing upon seeing Naruto's face go through countless expressions. I do not like guys like that. His loud yell was enough to snap Makarov out of his daydreaming and catch the attention of everyone else in the train car. Mira Jane couldn't contain the laugh that bubbled out of her throat as Naruto's face turned several shades of red. I'm just gonna go to sleep now. His muffled response made Mira Jane laugh hard enough that she fell out of her seat and onto the floor. Makarov could only look at the two with a confused expression on his face. So out of Harjan we take a carriage to the Akane resort. Screw that, I have a magic four-wheeler, one of you two can drive and I'll supply the magic. Activating his requip, he brought out the magic four-wheeler he had confiscated from the grimoire. Heart grunts. It's alright, Naruto. I'll drive and supply the magic. You two just relax inside. I've always wanted to drive one of these. The grin on Makarov's face was telling Naruto not to let him drive it, but he just couldn't say no. Walking around to open the door for Mira Jane, he whispered to her. If this thing starts to tip sideways, grab onto me and I'll bust us out. Seeing her nod and smile, he went inside after her. Sitting next to her, Naruto put his feet up on the seat across from him. However, he began to frown when he realized he could just barely reach the other side. Hearing Mira Jane giggling, he looked toward her direction with a frown on her face, but it just made her giggle even more. Sighing in defeat, he decided to just sit up. Hearing the engine roar to life, Naruto prepared himself by holding onto the seat with both hands. However, this proved useless as the moment the four-wheeler began to move he began to feel motion sickness and he toppled over onto Mira Jane's lap. Mira Jane just took this in stride and began to stroke his strangely soft hair. I am never riding on any machine ever again. Naruto's yell had only made Mira Jane and Makarov laugh. The trip had gone smoother than Naruto had believed it would considering what he saw on Makarov's face. Still, he got to lay on Mira Jane's lap, which isn't something a lot of people can claim to have done, so he considered it a good trade-off. You two check in. I'm gonna go to the casino. Wohoho. His laugh made everyone near him clear a path straight to the casino. Mira Jane and Naruto just stared at his diminishing form and then just turned back to each other and shrugged. Makarov wasn't their problem to deal with during this little vacation. What do you mean you don't have another room? Naruto and Mira Jane had been successful in checking in, but they found out that the resort only had 2 rooms left. That meant that they would have to double up in one of them. I'm sorry, sir, we've been having a very busy season, and because of it we are often completely booked. You are actually lucky to even get 2 rooms. Sighing, Naruto accepted the rooms. Looking at Mira Jane, she just smiled and shrugged. There wasn't anything they could do, so they would just make the best of it. I guess I'm going to be bunking with Gramps. I just hope he doesn't snore too badly after he gets drunk. Giggling at his lament, Mira Jane put her finger to her lips and thought, you can stay with me in my room if you don't mind sharing a room with a girl. His blushing cheeks sent Mira Jane into another giggling fit. I don't know if that would be right. Nonsense, Naruto. We're guildmates, and we trust each other. If we didn't, then I wouldn't have suggested it. Her bright shining smile helped win him over to her idea. Alright then. Let's get this stuff into the room. Carrying their luggage, they went towards their room. Ah, this water feels great. Naruto. Hurry up. Turning back towards the beach, Mira Jane could see that Naruto was arguing with a person renting out surfboards. Sighing, Mira Jane just dipped under the water and began to swim under it. Being a mage had many perks and one of them was superhuman abilities, even when not using magic. This included better lung capacity, which meant she could stay underwater for a lot longer than a regular human. Because of this, she was able to swim quite a ways away from the shore and into the deeper part of the ocean. Feeling her lungs beginning to protest the lack of air, she began to swim up towards the surface. Breaking the surface, she began to take great gulps of air and took in her surroundings. She was quite a distance away from the shore. Looking around, she couldn't spot Naruto until she dived under a wave and saw that Naruto was riding it. Feeling eyes on his back, Naruto turned his head back and saw that Mary-Jane. Waving at her, he turned his head back and swung his arms forward. This made his surfboard move away from the wave and towards where Mary-Jane was. Pulling up alongside her, he gave her his hand and pulled her up onto his surfboard. Grinning at her, he only said one thing, "Hold on." With that, he made the surfboard pick up speed quickly, which made Mary-Jane hold onto him unless she wanted to fall off. Making a wave rise with his magic, he began to ride the inside of the hollow of the wave, keeping in front of the crashing water and putting his hand into the wave itself. Looking back at Mary-Jane, he saw that she was enjoying herself completely. Laughing at the sense of jubilation surging through him, he turned and launched off the wave. He flipped through the air a few times with Mary-Jane screaming in his ear. He landed behind the wave and rode it down onto calm waters. Laughing, he turned to look at Mary-Jane when he saw a glow in the distance. Activating his battle archive, he zoomed into the glow and saw gigantic glowing magic seals in the sky. The seals themselves were rotating slowly, but it looked like they were beginning to stop. Not even a second after they stopped, a bright light came from above them and struck a structure under the seals. The light blinded Naruto for a few moments, until it faded away and in the structure's place was a gigantic lacrima. Getting a bad feeling in his stomach, he turned to Mary-Jane and saw that she was worried about the light as well. "I'll drop you off, so you can inform Gramps. I'm gonna go check it out." Seeing her nod, Naruto sped towards the shore with Mary-Jane clinging onto him from the sheer speed. Once he arrived, Mary-Jane jumped off and ran towards the casino. Seeing her go off quickly, Naruto requipped his clothes on and took off flying. He had a feeling that he needed speed more than power at the moment, so he combined arrow with his fire and wind magic once more. Quickly reaching top speed, he began to observe the lacrima as he got closer. Looking at it, he could tell it was unstable. There was way too much concentrated magic there. It was already beginning to fall apart, so if left alone it would explode. That was the worst case scenario, but it was a likely one. Arriving at the tower, he didn't expect to hear a voice in his head. "What in heaven are you doing that was able to wake me up?" Looking left and right, he realized that he recognized the voice. I'm not doing anything. I'm actually just flying here in the air, investigating this giant lacrima." Still looking around, he realized that the voice was actually just in his head. "Is there anything strange about this lacrima you speak of? It might be possible that there was enough concentrated magic that it was able to jolt me into consciousness just from being near it. Well, I know that it's unstable and that it will probably blow up. I'm gonna absorb some to see if we can break it down without having it blow up." Placing his hand on the lacrima, he began to absorb the magic it contained to see what he could find out about it. As he absorbed it, he began to feel traces of elemental magic inside it. Which was strange because this magic as a whole didn't have any of those properties. Maybe it was a mixture? Activating all of his archive, he began to break down the sample he absorbed with his own magic. It was a quick process, and a few seconds later one of the screens had the breakdown of the sample. It was a mixture of elemental magics that when combined together were far more powerful than when separate. However, it didn't just end at that. When the elemental magics were combined together, the new magic mixture began to exhibit new properties. One of them happened to be the ability to exceed through space-time. In theory, if it could be aimed well enough, then it would be able to target someone in the past. Or if it wasn't used as an attack, then it would work as a way to open up dimensional walls. Overall, it was an extremely advanced magic that Naruto doubted anyone would be able to pull off by themselves. Now I know what happened. I have seen this type of magic before. They are done in honor of the Almighty. More than likely, this changed after knowledge of the original purpose was lost. It is because of the method used to form this magic that I awoke. Well, that's interesting, but it doesn't tell us how to break the magic apart. I doubt I would be able to absorb even a tenth of it. Maybe a 50th, but that would be pushing it. I can't think of any way to dispose of this safely, and I doubt Gramps will get here in time. Rubbing the back of his head, he let out a sigh. I am completely and totally out of ideas. I might be of assistance. Huh? Naruto was surprised considering how weakened Gabriel was. If you would let me, I would be able to use your magic to open a gateway into another dimension and drag this into it. However, I do not know if you would have enough magic for something that large. More than likely, you will have to constantly absorb magic from the lacrima as I try and open a portal large enough to swallow the entire lacrima. Nothing is ever easy. Unfortunately, I don't think I will be able to hold on to the lacrima as I know this is going to be painful. I'm gonna have to integrate into the lacrima, and that itself is going to be painful. Oh well, nothing worthwhile is easy. Putting his hands on the lacrima, he began to get absorbed into the lacrima, but it was painful. The lacrima was trying to force him out, which only made it more difficult. Taking deep breaths, he forced himself completely into the lacrima. The pain was greater than he had believed it would be though. Feeling as though he was surrounded by some sort of gel, He was able to orient himself quickly and he began to absorb as much magic as he possibly could. He could already feel his body protesting absorbing such a large amount of magic. Any time now, Gabriel. Instantly, he felt a drain in his magic that only increased. Widening his eyes in panic, he began to absorb even more magic from the lacrima. Even as he was absorbing as much as he could feel that he was only just staying ahead of the drain. Worse yet, he could feel the tower begin to distort, and for some reason it was shaking. However, he found out why a bit afterward when he saw Natsu crash through several layers of lacrima. Only it wasn't the same Natsu that he knew. This Natsu had scales. Though it wasn't the same kind that Gajeel had, these seemed to have formed from his skin. Just looking at him, he felt something click in his mind, but he couldn't pay attention to it as he was still trying to keep ahead of Gabriel. An instant later, Natsu just flew back the way he came, except he was at least twice as fast as he was before. Seeing him go, Naruto focused back on absorbing magic. However, a few minutes later, he could feel something connect with his mind. In a flash, he saw himself flying above a cemetery, and he recognized all of Fairy Tail being there, crying. He even saw himself there, though he wondered what he was seeing. He found his answer when he saw a tombstone with Urza's name. He was staring in shock until he saw Urza floating a little lower than him. Moving towards her, he saw she was crying. Putting his hand on her shoulder, she jumped, realizing that she wasn't alone. Sacrificing yourself for others is noble, but you have to wonder if it's worth the pain you cause others. Everyone at home will tell you it's not worth it, so you have to live, Urza. Also, wear dresses more often. You're very beautiful and you should show it off more. Ending his speech with a giant grin, he was glad he could make her smile before she was pulled out of the lacrima. Opening his eyes, he began to absorb the magic even faster than before. He couldn't allow himself to die saving everyone after what he just said to Urza, so he was gonna make sure he survived. The spell will begin in a few minutes. Now you'll have to brace yourself as I had to tweak the spell. Instead of sending the lacrima into another dimension, it will instead all be sent directly into your magic container. Naruto really couldn't believe what he was hearing. Gabriel was going to kill them both. Even after he made that little speech to Urza. What? You are going to shove this absolutely gigantic pile of pure concentrated magic into my magic container? I can't handle that. No human can handle that. I'll explode. It's true, most humans wouldn't be able to contain such a massive amount of raw power, but you can. I couldn't see it at first, but you, Naruto Uzumaki, are special among your kind. You were born with a body with the ability to adapt to your conditions. That was why I was able to rest inside your soul. Your body adapted to the change that it felt from your soul. Your body will adapt to the increase in magic and find a way to prevent your body from falling apart. However, it won't be painless. You will probably never feel pain as great as this ever again, but you will be stronger for it. However, making you go through this pain was not my intention, but I believe that you will need it in the future. Most of my power is gone, but I still have a strong connection with reality. From that connection I can glimpse that you will be facing pain and hardship like none you have ever faced before. I cannot see what you will be facing, but I have faith that you will survive it and come out stronger. God damn it. Do not use the Almighty's name in vain. Scratching the back of his head in embarrassment, Naruto blushed, forgetting that he had a neighbor. Sorry, forgot you could hear my thoughts. If you believe that I will need this much power, then I will go through with your plan. Could have informed me a bit sooner though. Naruto didn't know if it was possible, but it felt like Gabriel was embarrassed. However, before he could even say anything, the spell activated. A large black orb began to expand from Naruto's stomach and began to surround him. Once it was slightly bigger than Naruto himself, it began to draw in all of the lacrima around him. From the outside it looked as if the tower was beginning to implode on itself. On the shore looking at the lacrima were the fairy tale mages. Everyone had crowded around Urza once Natsu had rescued her. However, no one could understand what was happening until Mirajane and Makarov had arrived at the beach. Looking at the group, Mirajane and Makarov's worry only grew. Where's Naruto? That single question made everyone pause. Urza then remembered who else she had seen inside the tower. He was inside the tower. I thought I was just hallucinating, but he spoke to me. That means he's the one casting the spell. That got everyone's attention as they hadn't known that Naruto was there. I didn't think he would have the ability to do something like this. It seems like there's more to Naruto than we thought. Makarov's voice wasn't enough to tear people away from the scene in front of them. The tower slowly broke apart and was absorbed by the black orb. It was quite amazing to actually look at, but for the one experiencing it, it was only pain. Naruto could not scream. He could not see. He could not move. He could not think. The pain was debilitating. It felt like every single nerve cell was on fire. He wanted the pain to end. He wanted to hide. He wanted to run away. Nothing was worth this amount of pain. Suddenly he could think. He didn't know what snapped him out of it, but he was glad for it. As he began to grit his teeth, he clenched his fists together. He couldn't control the spell, but he could feel that it was nearing completion. All he had to do was endure the pain for a little bit more. Grinning at feeling the spell reach completion, he allowed himself to relax. A second later, Naruto began to scream. Once again, he was assaulted with pain. His body was trying to assimilate the magic, but it was failing. It quickly began to leak out of him in an increasingly expanding orb. He could feel his body begin to slowly fall apart within the torrent of magic. He tried to hold it together, but it was useless. In a matter of moments his body would disintegrate. He could feel himself losing consciousness. I make this big speech about not dying for your friends and here I go against it. This really sucks. Losing consciousness soon after, he did not see something strange occur. His rinnegan began to glow a deep purple. It quickly began to reconstruct his body, bringing him back from the death. It then began to integrate the magic around it into the newly created body. Once finished, it stopped glowing. Hanging in the air for a moment, Naruto began to fall. The moment his head went under the water, his eyes snapped open and Naruto flew out of the ocean. Trying to calm his racing heartbeat, Naruto began to patting down his body. I'm alive? How? Gabriel, did you do something? Naruto expected to feel Gabriel's presence in his mind, but he felt nothing. Looking around himself, Naruto assumed that controlling that much magic was tiring when not at full strength, so Gabriel probably went back to sleep. Finally feeling calm, Naruto noticed that his clothes were in pretty good condition strangely enough, which was strange because he remembered having his body torn apart by the torrent of magical energy. Shrugging it off, Naruto began to glide back towards the shore, unaware of the fact that everyone on shore could feel his presence from miles away. Master, what's going on with Naruto? Mirajane's voice shook a bit when she spoke. After all, just an hour ago she knew that Naruto's presence was nothing like this. This presence was large, intimidating, suffocating. At first she believed she was hallucinating, but as it got stronger she knew for a fact that this power belonged to Naruto. The only thing that she didn't understand was, if he had so much power why didn't he use it against Phantom Lord? Everyone around Mirajane felt the same, except for Makarov. They couldn't understand what was happening either. This presence was nothing like they knew Naruto to be like. It felt like they were in the presence of a higher existence than them. They felt insignificant, and it only got worse as Naruto got closer. Makarov, himself, was thinking deeply. He knew of many different ways that this sort of feeling could be invoked, but he didn't know if Naruto knew any of them. He also knew that in order to make sure that things didn't get worse he would have to act quickly. Seeing Naruto about to land, Makarov moved quickly and sent a burst of extremely powerful sleep magic into Naruto's face. Makarov knew that something changed when Naruto was actually fighting off the magic until he sent another blast of it. Catching Naruto before he fell, he turned and walked away from the group who were doing their best to understand what had happened. Naruto and I will return after I have had a word with him. All of you return to your rooms and treat your injuries. Also, have some fun at the casino. It was fixed quickly after Urza was captured, so make sure to win some money. The last part was said with a laugh. He didn't need them to think that he was going to punish Naruto. He just needed to know what happened. That was some good sleep. Why am I outside? Naruto was a slow riser, so it took him a few moments to remember that Makarov had knocked him out. Quickly jumping to his feet, he looked around looking for Makarov and found him sitting on a boulder a few feet away from him. What the hell, Gramps? You didn't need to knock me out. I was all happy to see all of you and I was gonna give you all a great big hug and what do? You hit me with sleep magic. Twice. With a finger pointing straight at Makarov's face, Naruto couldn't tell that Makarov was trying to be serious. Naruto. What did you do to the giant lacrima? Any other time, Naruto's face would have sent Makarov laughing, but at the moment he had to be serious. Huh? Oh well, I got rid of it. Makarov knew that there was more to it, because you couldn't just get rid of something like that. Tell me what you did. Seeing that Makarov was being serious, Naruto decided to actually tell him almost everything. Well, I cast a spell that would let me absorb the giant lacrima into my body. Seeing that Makarov was just staring at him, he began to fidget. Do you know what sort of effect that much magic would have on you? Seeing that Naruto was not understanding, Makarov pointed off to the side. Following his finger, Naruto saw that there were actually 3 stone pillars surrounding them. Looking up, Naruto saw that there was a glowing magic circle above them. Looking back to Makarov, Naruto noticed that he was actually sweating a bit. This spell is a maximum defense seal that is being supported by the 3 pillar gods. It's taking the full strength of this combination spell in order to completely suppress your presence. Whatever you did, it has caused your very presence to pulse with power. Your existence itself is something that has never been seen before. You are more a being of magic now than a human. I do not know what sort of consequences this will have, so it must be kept a secret. However, your own presence is having an adverse effect on your surroundings. Looking around himself, Naruto couldn't tell what Makarov meant. Seeing that Naruto wasn't seeing what he meant, Makarov decided to give him a hint. Sense the magic in the air around us. Finally understanding, Naruto instead activated his battle archive. Focusing on the magic in the air, he could see what Makarov felt. His own magic was releasing a pressure that was affecting his surroundings. Looking at Makarov, he could see that Makarov was using his own magic to combat the pressure. Breathing deeply, he began to try and restrain his magic. He was having some success as he could see that it was no longer trying to smother Makarov's own magic. However, it was difficult keeping it reined in. It kept trying to just spread out. It's hard to keep it restrained. I'm gonna have to learn to keep this up all the time, right? No longer feeling smothered, Makarov regarded Naruto with a critical eye. You are going to have to get used to restraining your magic. All powerful wizards have to. Well, just keep practicing and try to keep slip-ups to a minimum. Now let's go. I want to get drunk. I can't believe we got all of Fairy Tail banned from the Akane resort. Walking sulkily back toward Magnolia Town, Lucy complained the entire time on the road. After Naruto and Makarov had returned at night, everyone had gathered at the beach in order to begin the Fairy Tail farewell ceremony. While Naruto didn't know Urza's friends, he was saddened that they had chosen to leave, but he could understand their reasons. He himself had the same reasons when he had been forced to leave his village. After that, everyone went to have fun again. Except that Makarov got drunk, Urza got mad, she lost money, Natsu destroyed a bunch of machines, Gray stripped, and Lucy tried to keep everyone calm, which only made things worse. In the end, the resort had ended up banning anyone from the Fairy Tail Guild, and sent them the bill for the damages. Don't worry about it, Lucy. It's only for 5 years. We've been banned for far longer. As always, Mira Jane tried to perk her up. It wasn't working. Bah, who cares if we've been banned? I'm just happy they didn't press charges. We have enough trouble keeping the Magic Council from trying to arrest us, so I could only imagine what would happen if we got in trouble with the normal law enforcement. Makarov's logic was at least able to stop making Lucy sulk. I wonder if they've finished the guild yet? There wasn't much left to finish. Naruto's question was answered when they saw the guild. Walking up to it, they were able to see that it now looked like a castle. Gawking at it, they walked through and noticed that it now contained an open-air cafe and a gift shop. As Natsu and them stayed to talk to Max, who mained the store, Naruto, Mira Jane, and Makarov went inside to see how everything was. As they walked through, they hadn't expected for everyone to start swarming them, yelling in celebration. However, Naruto soon realized that they weren't happy that he or Makarov were there. They were happy that Mira Jane was back. They were swarming all over her, crying and screaming about how happy they were that she was back. Mira Jane was trying to get everyone to calm down, but apparently they wouldn't listen. Sighing, Naruto made it rain on them. Once everyone was glaring at him, Naruto made his way to Mira Jane and sucked off all of the excess water on her. Once Mira Jane was all dry, she asked Ritas what was going on. As he tried to dry himself off, he answered, Kana is horrible at working the bar. She serves the drinks, and then she drinks them. She even takes our money afterward. Seeing that everyone was agreeing with Ritas, Mira Jane looked at Kana. Kana was doing her best to look anywhere but at the group that was staring at her for taking their drinks. Mira Jane instead just shook her head and went straight back to work as everyone cheered. The cheer didn't last long though, as the lights dimmed and a curtain was pulled to show Gajeel in a suit with a guitar preparing to sing. The instant the curtain was pulled, the guild was divided into two. One half stood in front of the stage, and the other half was at the farthest wall from the stage. As Gajeel began to sing, the one near the stage screaming their support for the song, while the other half just began to throw anything they could get their hands on, and one of Fairy Tail's famous brawls began. It was unfortunate that the brawl began because the moment it did, Makarov came out of his office with Juvia next to him. He was going to formally introduce her to the guild, but that took a back seat the moment he saw a brawl start in his shiny new guild. As he began to cry at the damages, Juvia just stood next to him until she saw Gray. The moment she did, she skipped over to him. Naruto tried his best to stay out of the brawl at the moment, as he really wasn't sure if he could keep his power contained in a fight yet. Still, it was nice to be back after what happened at the resort. Sitting at the bar, he shared a smile with Mira Jane as he saw Gajeel and Natsu exchange kicks in the air. Okay, so you're telling me that ever since the guild was finished, Gajeel has been doing concerts here? And half the guild likes the songs, while the other half violently hates it? Seeing Mikao nod his head, Naruto began to laugh. Who would have thought that Gajeel would win over the guild with his crappy singing? So have Levi, Jet, and Droy have gotten over what happened? That was something he was worried about. He didn't want his friends to be antagonistic to each other. Well, Levi just wants to get over it, but Jet and Droy are still angry as all hell. I just think they're mad because they got beaten up in front of Levi. It's a pride thing. They'll probably try and jump Gajeel later on, and from what I've seen of him, he feels guilty that he attacked them, so he'll probably let them beat him around for a bit. Sighing because he knew that Mikao was right, Naruto laid his head down the table and looked around the guild. Except that he saw Gajeel following Jet and Droy. Getting up, he waved goodbye to Mikao, Wakaba, and Kana. Following behind the group, he made sure to not be seen. As they arrived at their destination, Naruto realized where they were at. It was the scene of where Gajeel riveted Team Shadow Gear to the tree. Looking back at the group, he saw that Levi was hiding behind the tree. He couldn't hear what was being said, but from the way that Jet and Droy were standing, they were going to attack Gajeel. As much as Naruto wanted to help Gajeel, he knew that he wanted them to attack him so that he could stop feeling so guilty. So he let it happen. It was interesting to see how strong Jet and Droy really were. The only problems he could see was that Droy's magic required those seeds to activate, so what would happen if he ran out? Shaking his head to clear it of those thoughts, he noticed that there was another guy there. A blonde-haired guy that had headphones on. Looking closer, he activated his battle archive to get a better look. However, the moment he saw sparks come out of those headphone spike things, he moved. Standing in front of Godlike, he raised his hand and drew the lightning towards himself and absorbed it. Phew, now that is some seriously strong lightning magic. It's almost like you actually wanted to seriously hurt someone. The look on the guy's face only made Naruto's smirk grow larger. Who the hell are you, brat? The pulsing veins in the guy's forehead told Naruto that the guy had serious anger issues. Naruto Uzumaki, now who the hell are you bastard? The increased pulsing only served to make Naruto smirk even more. Naruto, be careful. He's Laxus, he's the master's grandson. He's incredibly powerful. Jet's warning only served to make Laxus angrier. You worms, be quiet. Laxus sent a bolt of lightning at Shadow Gear, but Levi was in its direct path. Moving quickly, Godlike blocked the attack before Naruto could absorb it. Are you done yet? I have work to do. Walking away, Godlike held his arm close to his body, trying to get his arm to stop twitching. Godlike, wait. Levi's plea went unanswered as Godlike walked away. Seeing Laxus walk away, Naruto got a feeling that things were going to get bad soon. So you're telling me that I can build my own house? As long as I build outside of Magnolia's boundaries? The look Naruto was giving Makarov had the man uncomfortable. Yes, that's what Natsu did after he found out he couldn't afford to rent his own place. The giant grin that Naruto now sported made Makarov wonder if he had made a terrible mistake in telling Naruto this. Thanks a lot, old man. I've got some building to do. Running out of the guild and pushing people over as he did, Naruto didn't notice that he had started another one of Fairy Tail's brawls. So according to this map, I just passed the borders of Magnolia Town. Looking over the paper and into the dense foliage, Naruto was amazed how far into the woods Magnolia extended. I'm gonna need a nice flat piece of land to build my own house. Maybe a clearing? Or maybe I can just chop some of these trees down? Looking around, Naruto was quite sure that he wouldn't be able to find a clearing large enough to build something on. Sighing, Naruto looked around trying to find somewhere to build his house. Unfortunately for him, he didn't find anything of the sort even after looking for hours. Walking into a clearing, he found himself on a small path. Following it, he found that the path actually led to a tree house. An actual house made from a hollowed-out tree. Looking at it more closely, he realized that he could actually see runes on the tree. Examining the runes, Naruto realized that the runes were actually there to help keep the tree alive and growing. Amazed even more, Naruto realized exactly what he wanted for his home. Though, he was still fuzzy on the whole carving out a tree part. Running up the steps, Naruto knocked on the door like crazy until an elderly woman with pink hair opened up. As he opened his mouth to speak, the door was shut in his face. Frowning, he knocked repeatedly until she opened again. This time, he was able to get out a word before she tried to slam the door again, but he jammed his foot between the door and the frame. I just need you to answer a question. It'll be really quick, please. Trying to get his face through the open space was difficult, as the old lady was fairly strong. I hate humans. Just leave. That was a strange response, he thought. Look, I just need to know how you hollowed out your tree. I'll leave right after you tell me. I don't have to tell you anything. Just leave. Rolling his eyes, Naruto managed to push the door open enough to get his head through, so he could look at the lady in the eyes. Look, old lady. I just want to know something real fast. After that I'll get out of your hair. From her face, Naruto saw that she relented and let him inside. Except the moment he stepped inside, he got his face smacked with a book. There. That book will tell you how to hollow out a tree, now get out. Grabbing the book with his hands, Naruto was unprepared for the broom. It smacked him out and down the stairs. Landing on his face, Naruto got up and dusted himself off before sticking his tongue out at the lady. Grabbing the book, Naruto began to flip through it as he walked aimlessly. So, I need to find a tree big enough for what I want? Well, that's going to be a problem. I only need something small at the moment, but later on, I might need something bigger, and I don't want to just keep on hollowing out trees every time I move. I wish I could just make my own tree. Feeling stupid for only now realizing that he could in fact make his own tree, Naruto looked at the very small clearing he found. It was just big enough for a group of maybe 3 or 4 people to sit comfortably. Looking at the surrounding trees, Naruto looked to see if anything was using those placed for a home. Finding none, strangely enough, Naruto decided to just cut all of the surrounding trees down. Everything had been going great until Naruto realized that he still needed to take care of all of the stumps. With some earth magic he got rid of those quickly enough. All of the trees though, he just sent into his dimensional pocket. They would make great firewood. Looking at the much larger clearing, Naruto decided that it would be a perfect time to create a house. Except he froze. Wood burned. He was going to make a house from a tree. More than anything his friends would all want to come visit once he was done. Natsu would want to visit. Natsu is a pyromaniac. Natsu would burn his house down. Even if he added runes, Natsu would keep trying until he broke through the runes. Dropping to the ground in anguish, Naruto wished he could just make a non-flammable tree. Snapping his eyes open, he realized that he might be able to make a non-flammable tree. Metal was non-flammable. He knew how to create iron from seeing Godlike do it. He knew how to use make magic from seeing both Gray and Loki use it. He could create metal make. Standing up quickly, Naruto activated Archive. Pulling up the tree magics, he focused on Ice Make and Wood Make. He was looking through the mechanics to see how different and similar they were. The major difference was that one created ice and the other wooden objects. Digging deeper, he realized that both were similar in mechanics. However, Wood Make had something that Ice Make didn't. The wood from Wood Make was alive. That made Naruto pause. Could he create a living metal tree? The rush of excitement he felt flow through his body was enough to let him know that he had to try. Taking the mechanics of both Ice and Wood Make and putting that on an empty screen, he closed the screens of Ice and Wood Make. Looking at Godlike's Iron Dragon Slayer magic, he focused upon the mechanics of creating metal. That was the part he was looking for. Finding it, he ripped that from the rest of the information and transferred it over to the other screen. The moment he transferred the information, he saw something strange happening to the screen. The information on the screen began to change. New lines of information were beginning to form and other ones were being erased. As it happened, never did it once cross Naruto's mind to stop the process. Somehow Naruto knew that this was supposed to happen. He just didn't realize it. Held in a trance by the screen, Naruto didn't realize he closed the other screen. When it finally stopped, Naruto blinked and looked at the new information that was on display. Reading it through, Naruto realized that his archive had somehow created the new magic he needed from the information he had. However, it was untested, and it had no name. Grinning with excitement, Naruto felt the words flow through him as he put his hands together. Metal Make, Tree of Infinity. Feeling the magic drain from his being, Naruto grinned even wider when he saw a small metal sapling rise from the ground. He began to grin like a maniac when he saw that the sapling was growing very quickly, and he grinned until it hurt when he saw that the sapling was quickly turning into a full-grown tree. His grin began to lessen when he realized that the tree was not slowing down. He stopped smiling when he saw that it was actually growing taller than the surrounding forest. He began to wonder if he might have made a mistake trying out an untested spell by pumping so much magic into it. When he saw that it was actually growing large enough that it was going to take up the entire clearing he had just made, he knew that he was going to have to do a lot of explaining. To his relief, the tree stopped growing when it reached its trunk had filled up most of the clearing. Looking at his creation though, Naruto couldn't help but feel proud. He had created a living metal tree, though, he quickly realized that he now had a new problem. How was he supposed to hollow out a metal tree? His answer came from the tree itself. He saw that there was actually an opening near to where he was at. Walking through it, he was startled when the opening closed itself. Before he could even begin to feel any apprehension from walking inside the strange tree, the inside began to illuminate itself. All along the walls, bark, he reminded himself, he saw vertical orange glowing lines that lit up the room nicely. Looking at the room completely, he saw that there were actually stairs. He would have found that strange if he hadn't just created a living metal tree. Walking up the stairs, he saw the second floor was very much the same as the first. Going up another level, he saw that the third floor was the same, and going up again, the fourth was too. Overall, he was very impressed by what he had created. Though he was happy with the fact that he didn't know exactly what he did, he noticed one thing going through up the stairs. The tree had no windows. The moment he thought that though, the tree gained windows. Walking up to one of the windows, he saw that he had an amazing view of all of Magnolia. Looking down, he saw that he was actually quite high up. He was much higher up than any of the other trees. In fact, he was sure that his tree was probably visible from Magnolia. Laying down and staring at the ceiling, he realized that the floor was actually very warm, even though it was made out of metal. Yawning, he couldn't help but feel completely at ease and relaxed in his new home. Turning to lay on his side, Naruto fell asleep. What do you think made this? No idea, but it wasn't here yesterday. Well, if anything, it's absolutely delicious. That last voice woke Naruto up in an instant. Standing up and running down the stairs, Naruto ran to where the opening was last night, and he saw it open for him. Running outside, he saw that Godlike was about to rip out another piece of his beloved tree. Running and tackling Godlike, Naruto had Godlike face down in the ground holding one of his arms and twisting it. Naruto? Turning to where his name was being called, he saw that Mira-Jane and Kana were staring at him in shock. Waving hello, he was tossed off of Godlike's back. Godlike yelled, "What the hell was that for?" Pointing a finger at him, Naruto yelled back, "You were eating my house, you bastard." "Your house?" Turning, he nodded towards Kana. "Yup, just made it yesterday. Took quite a bit of magic power too." Patting the trunk, Naruto was surprised to feel that the bark actually felt like the bark of a normal tree. Looking up, he saw that the branches had actual leaves as well. He wondered if the tree lived off of photosynthesis as well. How in the world did you even make something like this? Hearing Mira-Jane's awe, Naruto could only grin. "I made it with my metal make." Seeing the confused looks, Naruto decided to demonstrate. Putting his hands together, fist over palm, he released some magic and he felt the object take form. Opening his hand, he showed them the fairy tale symbol he had just crafted. "That's amazing! Where did you learn that?" Hearing the praise made Naruto blush lightly. "I actually created the magic yesterday. I made it from combining the basics of Ice Make and Wood Make, with Iron Dragon Slayer's ability to create metals. With that I was able to create this beautiful thing. I actually have no idea what it can do, but I'm excited. Naruto wasn't able to see the shocked looks he received because he was currently staring at the tree with pride. None of the three of them could even begin to try and create a new style of magic, and Naruto went and created one in a day? That was simply beyond words. So what are you doing here? That snapped all of them out of their little episode. The old man told us to come and see what the hell this thing was doing here. But considering you're the one who made it, it'd be best if you went and told him yourself. Nodding at Gajil's words, Naruto began to walk and was followed by Mira-Jane and Kana. Gajil stayed back and stared at the tree in amazement. He had created complex things with his magic before, but this thing before him was amazing. When he had eaten that small fragment from the tree, he was amazed at the extreme purity of the metal and concentrated amount of pure magic it contained. He doubted that he would be able to find a better tasting metal in all of Fiori. Looking at the tree again, he finally noticed that it actually had leaves. That made him wonder if the tree dropped its leaves like regular trees did in autumn. Would the leaves rust off? That was something worth thinking about. Gajil, you better not be eating any more of my tree or you're getting the worst ass kicking of your life. Hearing Naruto yell, Gajil decided to follow. He was tempted to take a piece of the tree just to spite Naruto, but decided not to. Naruto might let him have some later. I can't believe I completely forgot that the Harvest Festival was today. You'd think that I would remember something like the Miss Fairy Tale contest, Naruto stated as he sat next to Gajil in the packed guild hall. Maybe you're secretly gay? Gajil asked with complete seriousness. Hey! First of all, I am not gay. Second of all, I was a bit preoccupied by the fact that I created a brand new type of magic. Naruto yelled at Gajil. This got them more than a few looks from the surrounding crowd. Hey, I don't care. You can tell yourself whatever you need to fall asleep at night. I came to stare at scantily clad women. Not to talk about a teenager's sexual preferences. With that, Gajil refocused upon the stage as Max began the contest. Contestant number 1 is an exotic beauty with an otherworldly stomach. Kana Alberona. Max yelled into the microphone as Kana appeared on stage to the yells and whistles of the crowd. Now, she'll use her magic to appeal to the audience. Seeing the cards swirling around Kana, Naruto focused upon that to see if he could figure out what type of spell or magic was doing that when he saw something. For a brief instant he saw Kana naked. Looking around, he saw that he was the only one that saw her like that. Leaning back into his seat he thought, I just imagined it. I can't be the only person to have ever imagined how Kana must look like naked. With that he looked at the stage again to see that it was Juvia now on stage. Like Kana, she used her magic to appeal to the crowd. Like Kana again, Naruto saw her naked for an instant. Blinking his eyes he saw that she was now wearing a bathing suit. Slapping his cheek slightly, he wondered if his tree had somehow poisoned him. Focusing back onto the stage again, he saw that it was Mira-Jane. As he was about to root for her he saw her transform her face into Happy's. That moment of confusion quickly turned into laughter the moment she changed into Gajil. Turning to look at Gajil, his laughter soon turned hysterical as he struggled to stay upright in his seat. Failing, Naruto fell to the ground and tried to stop laughing, but couldn't. As he finally got himself to calm down, he saw that Urza was now on the stage. Seeing her begin to glow, he was once again surprised to catch an instant of Urza naked. Blinking, he saw that she was now in a gothic Lolita outfit. Now, Naruto knew that something was up. He was the only one who was seeing his friends naked for an instant. Looking around, he caught an image of his reflection and realized exactly why this was happening. My rinnegan. It's allowing me to see through magic easier, but only for slight moments. Is my rinnegan improving? Bah, I'll figure it out later. I've got scantily clad women to look at. Looking at the stage once more, he was surprised to see it was Lucy. How long did I space out for? My celestial spirits, and I will perform a cheer. Entry number 8. Looking around, he saw that the voice was coming from a woman who wore glasses in a green dress. Apparently her name was Evergreen if her introduction was true. Lucy! Don't look into her eyes. Unfortunately, Gray's warning came a moment too late as Lucy turned into stone. Everyone! Run for your lives. Max's warning was enough to make all of those who weren't mages leave the guild. What the hell is going on? Gajil's question was soon answered as the Thunder Legion made their appearance. Hey look, it's the guy who kicked your ass. The headlock Naruto was put into was completely worth the insult. However, they both knew that something serious was going on the moment that Laxus tried to strike Lucy's statue with lightning. It's time to decide who the strongest of Fairy Tail is with a contest. If you want to turn the girls back to normal, you have to defeat us first. You have 3 hours to do so, any longer and the girls will turn to sand. Evergreen finished with a small grin. All of Magnolia will serve as the battlefield. When you find us, or when we find you, the battle will begin. Laxus finished with a large grin. Just looking at him, Naruto could tell that something wasn't adding up. Laxus! Stop this foolishness! The sudden increase in Makarov's size only reinforced the fact that this was not something that Makarov would take lightly. I told you before, it's entertainment for the festival, so just simmer down. Let's enjoy this while it lasts. Laxus finished with a large flash as he took his guard with him. Opening his eyes, Naruto was able to see that the Thunder Legion was gone. though he finally noticed that Natsu was actually on the ground for some reason. We have to save the girls. We have to save my sister and the others. Catch Laxus. With a final battle cry, most of the mages left the guild. Makarov, however, was staring at all of his frozen children. With a cry, Makarov ran out to try and capture Laxus. However, he was soon stopped by an enchantment created by Fried. Looking at the words that appeared above the doorway, Naruto realized that Makarov wouldn't be able to leave anytime soon. As he stared at the doorway, Naruto really wanted to go and fight, but he had to do something first. Walking up to Mirajane, Naruto put his hands on her head and activated his battle archive. He tried to absorb the spell that was placed on her. Unfortunately, he realized that he couldn't. What he was looking at was only half the spell. This half kept them as statues. The other half was with Evergreen. If he wanted to free the girls, he was gonna have to defeat Evergreen. Jumping off the stage, he ran towards the doorway. Except he collided midair with an invisible wall. What the hell? I'm not 80 or a stone statue. Hearing a yell, he saw that Natsu was running towards him. Moving out of the way, and sticking his foot out, he tripped Natsu and expected Natsu's face to meet the ground, but was surprised when he was actually stopped by the enchantment as well. Natsu, Naruto, are either of you 80? Are you stone statues? Looking at Makarov like he was an idiot, Naruto tried to figure out exactly what was happening. For some reason, the enchantments were confusing Naruto and Natsu as being either 80 or a stone statue. Obviously they weren't stone statues, so that left them with the enchantment confusing them for being 80. Hey, Gramps. These enchantments were made with runes, right? I'll just modify them. Extending his middle and forefingers of his right hand, Naruto lit them up with magic. Finding the right sequence he needed, he shot the runes toward the enchantment. Naruto expected the enchantment to just fall apart. He didn't expect his runes to shatter. Though, he realized why when he looked at the enchantment closer. Shit, my runes are incompatible with the enchantment. My runes use a different language than Fried's enchantments. Staring and concentrating on the wall, Naruto began to focus on a tiny spot. He wasn't sure if he had seen it, but for a brief moment, he had seen an extremely small hole in the wall. That meant that the enchantment wasn't absolute. Fried had messed up. Grinning, he focused and saw the tiny hole spring up once again. To the side of him, Natsu and Makarov were arguing about whether or not this was a tournament. He ignored them as best as he could. Seeing the hole open up, Naruto jumped at it. He was able to make the hole slightly bigger by jamming his finger into it. Too focused on what he was doing, he didn't see that both Makarov and Natsu were staring at him. Jamming a second finger in, he was able to force the hole bigger until he could fit his hand through. Using his other hand to make the hole even bigger, he was able to make it big enough for him to jump through. See ya, Gramps? Jumping through the hole, he saw that it snapped back closed almost immediately after his foot just cleared the wall. Seeing their faces, Naruto couldn't help the laugh that came out. Standing up and running, Naruto tried to figure out where Evergreen could be hiding. He didn't have to think long as he saw Elfman trying to swat her down. Unfortunately, Elfman was covered in some sort of powder which then exploded. Running towards them, he was able to get to them the moment that Elfman was turned to stone. So your eyes hold your petrification magic? Turning around, Evergreen was surprised to see a small child. Go home, child. I'm sure your parents are worried about you. The soft tone of her voice would have made her seem kind, even sweet to Naruto had he not seen what she did to all of his friends. Sorry, I'm an orphan, but what I'm wondering, do I just have to kick your ass to turn everyone back to normal? The sudden rustling of wind around him let Evergreen know that he wasn't just a normal child. Though when she saw his hand she knew immediately why. So you're in Fairy Tail? Wow, I can't believe that Makarov would allow someone so weak into the guild. Her change in demeanor showed Naruto exactly what he needed to know. She could be kind and sweet, but apparently she could change it on a dime. You'll see that I'm not so weak. With that, Naruto threw 3 lances of light magic. Of course, Evergreen just flew up. However, she didn't expect the lances to change course. Just barely dodging the lances, she was unprepared for the sudden burst of wind that threw her higher up into the air. Reorienting herself, she saw that Naruto was flying right in front of her. Pushing down her glasses, she knew he wouldn't be able to look away, and she was right. What? Until, the rock just shattered off of Naruto's form. Smirking at Evergreen, Naruto could only smile. Your eyes hold the spell that turns them to stone. By looking into your eyes without protection you are able to transfigure their physical bodies. It also grants you control over them, like being able to shatter them whenever you want. However, the biggest flaw is that 2 normal eyes must be looking at the same time. If one of them is artificial, then the spell is not completely cast. This makes it possible for the petrified victim to be saved. Smirking at her enraged look, Naruto figured it would be best to defeat her quickly. Shut up. Fairy machine gun, leprechaun. Sending waves of magic stingers at Naruto, Evergreen expected for him to dodge. Sadly, she was fighting someone who could absorb her magic. Smirking ever wider at her surprised look, Naruto just flew through the magic stingers, absorbing any that touched him. He was afraid his wings wouldn't be able to absorb the stingers since the wings themselves were magic, but apparently they could. As he got closer to Evergreen, he saw that she was going to try and escape, but he wouldn't give her the option. Bansho Tenin, pulling her towards him, he pumped his left hand full of sleep magic. The same magic that Makarov used on him at Akane Resort. Throwing the magic at her face, she fell asleep instantly and Naruto caught her. As much as he wanted to just beat the crap out of her, she was still fairy tale. Looking down, he saw that Elfman was returning to normal, though he was still unconscious. Putting Evergreen next to him, he was about to return to the guild when he saw something that was not in the sky before. Flying back up, he took a more thorough look at it magically. What he saw was not good. Each one of the orbs contained a lightning lacrima that was overloaded with magic. The orbs were used to contain the excess magic, and were spelled to have both a timer and body link magic. That made it dangerous for anyone to destroy the orbs. Looking around, he saw that someone in the guild was about to shoot one of the lacrima. Before he could even yell out a warning, she fired. Naruto could only grit his teeth when she began screaming in pain. Looking around trying to sense if he could find one of the remaining Thunder Legion, he was able to dodge an attack from behind. Turning to see who attacked him, he was surprised to see it was a floating wooden doll. However, that surprise turned into caution when he saw that it was joined by 4 more. Looking around, he saw someone wearing some strange clothing that was staring at them. I'm Bixlow, boy, so you're the one who defeated Ever? You don't seem all that tough. Go, my babies! With that the dolls began to chase Naruto as he flew through the air. As he dodged, he waited until he saw an opening. Seeing it, he flew through with a large burst of speed and clocked the guy with his fist. Ouch, you have one mean right hook. I guess if you're fast enough to dodge my babies, then I don't have a choice. I'm going to have to use it. Pulling his hood off along with the eye covering he used, he opened his eyes. Figure eyes. Glowing green, he stared right into Naruto's eyes. Except, when he got a look at Naruto's soul, he began to scream. The moment Naruto saw the eyes glow, he began to understand the magic within them. Bixlow's figure eyes allowed him to look at people's souls. However, in doing so he can also turn them into dolls which he can then control. Except something went wrong. The moment that Bixlow looked at his soul, Naruto had to grip his head. He was getting images. Memories that were not his own. Looking and trying to make sense of them, he saw some small glimpses. 8 giant creatures staring at a man who had the rinnegan. 2 men, one with burning red eyes, and another who could control wood. 2 women with incredibly red hair. 1 man with the same hair color as his, a man with white hair who also had a rinnegan. Suddenly they stopped. Breathing deeply, Naruto realized that somehow he had wound up on the ground holding his head incredibly tightly. Letting go and looking up, he saw that he was on the rooftop that he and Bixlow had been fighting on, except that Bixlow was gone. Standing up, he slowly looked around to realize that he was completely alone. Hey, can anyone hear me? It's Warren. Look at the sky. Laxus has those things ready to destroy the city. Telepathy? I wonder. Feeling it naturally come to him, he was able to connect himself with whoever was using telepathy. Unfortunately, my telepathy can't reach the guild, so anyone who can hear will have to do. Don't worry, I can expand my telepathy. Naruto informed Warren. Though, it seemed like Warren wasn't expecting it if his reply was anything to go by. How the hell did you hack my telepathy? Warren yelled mentally at Naruto. It really wasn't hard. Anyway, can anyone at the guild hear me? It's Naruto. Naruto expected for Makarov to answer, but was instead surprised by who it was. Wait, are you that brat that was bothering me yesterday? This threw Naruto for a loop. He didn't expect for that old lady to be at the guild. What the hell are you doing at the guild, you old hag? Where's Gramps? At the moment Naruto was trying to ignore all of the yelling the other guild members were doing. Apparently they were pissed off that they got beat up. Bunch of babies. Makarov isn't doing well. The change in her voice was clear. Whatever happened, Makarov would probably not make it. At the moment Naruto was glad that the other members were yelling, or else they would have heard and they wouldn't be able to focus on what needed to be done. Unfortunately for Naruto, he was out of it long enough for Lucy to rally everyone together and have them attack the lacrima in the air. The moment that Naruto snapped back to reality, he saw all of the attacks flying. Thinking quickly, he tried to find a way to keep them from getting killed by the body link magic. His answer came when he turned and saw his tree in the distance. His metal make would be able to conduct electricity. He could take the body link magic and place it on the metal. That way, he could ground all of the electricity that would be released and save his guildmates. Looking at where he would unleash his spell, he realized that the cathedral needed a new tower. Fist over palm, Naruto prepared himself. Once again, words just flowed through him as he unleashed his spell. Metal make, superconductive lightning rod. A giant pillar rose from the center dome of the cathedral. As it rose into the air, the attacks hit the lacrima. As the pillar finished with a fairy tale symbol at the top, the body link magic activated. Glowing blue, the lightning rod drew all of the released lightning magic into itself. It began to glow gold with magic before it shattered into millions of tiny fragments that quickly disappeared. As he took pride in his quickly made spell, Naruto noticed a lack of cheers in his mind. Hello? Are you guys alright? You were able to keep most of the attack from hitting us, but some of it still hit us. We're not as bad off as we would have been if you hadn't created that tower. Urza's thoughts came through clearly. which was a good thing because he had seen all of the swords that hit the lacrimas. Only one person in the guild had that many. Just take the pain as proof that you just saved Magnolia. Now, to kick Laxus' ass and prepare for Fantasia. Anyone wanna come with? A cacophony of groans was his answer. Shaking his head at their inability to take a hit, Naruto prepared to look for Laxus when a bright light from the cathedral drew his attention. Seeing the giant fairy tale mark pop up over the cathedral, Naruto knew his destination. Activating Era, Naruto flew off. However, as he flew he saw Laxus and Natsu fighting it out. Stopping, he wondered if he needed to interfere in the fight at all. Thunder Dragon's Demolition Fist. The giant fist of lightning quickly changed Naruto's mind. Laxus was out of control. Quickly flying in front of Natsu, Naruto saw the lightning coming, but something was strange. He could see that in a certain spot, the magic was unstable. Quickly charging his fist with magic power, Naruto punched the weak spot. As expected, the magic power in the lightning destabilized and the attack dissipated harmlessly. More and more small fry. I'll obliterate all of you. Seeing that Laxus was preparing a powerful attack, Naruto looked to see that Natsu was still raring to go. Smirking, Naruto channeled fire magic into his hand and compressed it. Throwing the glowing white orb at Natsu, Naruto was happy to see that Natsu looked surprised at the quality of fire he made. Thunder Dragon Heavenward Halberd. Speeding forward, Naruto grabbed the magic in his hands, and shocking everyone around him, modified the spell so that he could physically use it like a real halberd. Still moving, he slammed the spell into the shocked Laxus' stomach and sent him flying into the air where he met an angry Natsu. Fire Dragon Iron Fist, Talon, Wing Attack, Sword Horn, Flame Elbow, Flame Lotus, Exploding Flame Blade. Sending Laxus' unconscious body back onto the cathedral roof, Natsu landed and began to roar in victory, quickly followed by everyone else. Frowning at the victory, Naruto let the halberd dissipate. He had wanted to fight Laxus all by himself. It wasn't fair that he had to share the victory with Natsu and Gijil. No. I won't be in the parade. If you want me to blow something up, that's no problem. If you want me to make something, I can do that. I can't, however, perform a complicated routine in front of thousands of people. It's one of my few faults. The look everyone within earshot gave him had him wondering if he had said something weird. However, everyone suddenly became deathly quiet. Looking towards the source, Naruto saw that Laxus was the reason for the lack of commotion, except that quiet quickly turned into loud yelling. Did you really think that you could just waltz back in here after what you did? How dare you show your face after what you've done? Hearing nothing but childish whining, Naruto decided to shut everyone up. Clapping his hands together, he used summon magic to create a strong gust to get everyone's attention on himself. Are you all done bitching about a few small bruises? Because if you aren't, you could just fight Laxus and get it out of your system. That instantly made everyone surrounding Laxus back up a step. In their anger, they forgot that Laxus could still crush them all even with his injuries. Anyway, Gramps in the back, in the infirmary. Seeing Laxus nod as thanks, he began to walk towards the infirmary. Oh, by the way, I want a rematch. I can't accept the fact that I missed out on fighting you by myself. The savage grin on Naruto's face made more than just a few people scoot away from him. However, they were quickly distracted by a mummified Natsu jumping in and screaming through his taped-up mouth. He says, I can't accept winning 3 against 1. I won't lose next time. You better fight me again, Laxus. Gijil translated. Hey, I challenged him first, Natsu. You'll just have to wait. Turning towards Naruto, Natsu began his muffled screaming again. I'm sorry, what? I couldn't quite catch that, can you maybe speak clearer? Seeing Natsu turning red with rage, everyone in the guild began to laugh. As Natsu calmed down, he saw Laxus wave goodbye. Alright everyone, let's get ready for the parade. Urza quickly had everyone who was participating begin practicing their routines. Naruto, however, ran out the door. After dragging Naruto back, Fairy Tail began the Fantasia parade. Like always, it was an incredible event with magic, dancing, and laughs. However, what was different this time around was that every member reminded Laxus that no matter where he went, they would always look out for him. As the weeks went on, things began to get back to normal. Fairy Tail was as lively as ever, and in fact began to cause more trouble than usual. Naruto, however, was not concerned with any of that. He was more concerned with trying to understand his treehouse. From what he had been able to understand, it was a magical metal substance that could change its shape as needed. Somehow, he and the tree had some sort of mental connection. If he needed something, like a chair, it would grow from the tree and it would disappear once he was done with it. He also learned that the tree had sap. Since this was a magical metal tree, this wasn't ordinary sap. It was magical metal in a strange liquid-like form. The only reason he learned it was metal was because he took some to the guild to be analyzed by anyone who could. Gijil had smelled it, and he drank some of it. From there, Naruto ended up trying to collect the sap to see if he could do anything with it. He was lucky that the tree didn't have a lot of sap, but it was still enough to fill a small container after a few weeks. Naruto put the sap away into his pocket to mention for examination at a later date. He needed to get some missions done. As he walked into the guild, he knew something was wrong. First of all, it was empty. During this time of day was when there was the most activity within the guild. Second of all, Makarov was wearing his formal attire. The coat of a wizard saint. Walking inside, he saw that Makarov was focusing on a lacrima orb in front of him and looking up at a giant chart drawn in the air. Coming up to his side, Naruto could see various members of the guild were fighting some people. Looking up, he read the chart and realized what he was looking at. Fairy Tail was systematically destroying dark guilds. In a moment though, he realized that Fairy Tail wasn't the only guild doing so. Fairy Tail was attacking 6 of the dark guilds associated with Oration Cease. The other 11 were being destroyed by Blue Pegasus and Lania Scale. Looking back at the lacrima, he saw that some of his guild members were having some trouble. It seemed like these guilds were stronger than they thought. Naruto, I need you to go here and destroy that dark guild. Looking at where Makarov was pointing, Naruto saw that Makarov wanted him to destroy the dark guild Gloria. Sure, but isn't this illegal? Naruto himself didn't care what the Magic Council said or did, but he knew that Makarov already got a lot of crap from them. To hell with them. We have always done what we think is right and we will continue to do so until we think otherwise. The grin on Makarov's face was more than enough to make Naruto grin too. Good, just remember that when you get the bill for all of the destruction Fairy Tail is going to cause. Running from Makarov's giant fist, Naruto left the guild with a smile on his face. What if Godlike Rinnegan Naruto and Fairy Tail? And thanks for watching my video till the end. If you enjoy this content, then do consider subscribing to my channel. And leave a like if you guys need the next part. Comment down and thanks for watching the video and see you guys in the next video.